new stuff. We're going.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
How are you doing tonight? All I can tell you is God bless the school system. My daughter-in-law teaches. It's something that
Kelly Satterfield, Eddie Simmons. These are the masters tonight. That's got to do
The only way to stop this is to give her a face shield.
Oh, that's the only reason. Hey, Jim, Adam moved his part up, so you, Adam, then you can go. If that don't make you mad, and if you wanted to stay, you're welcome to stay.
Yeah, I'll leave when you tell me to leave.
Not yet.
okay. Okay, so you can hear me. I'm going to call the Loudon County Commission Workshop for July 20th, 2020 to order. The first order of business is general public comments. First up on the list is Jim Deasem and Bill Taylor talking about our place, which is the Alzheimer's daycare over in Tellico Village. Step to the podium and tell us what's on your mind.
Could you say the names again, please?
It's Jim Dezzutti and Bill Taylor.
Yeah, I could.
I'm Bill Taylor.
I'm the other guy. Well, thank you for listening to us. We're going to be a new facility here in Loudon County. We'll be open to about 5 different counties once we come open. It's going to be an adult day center for individuals who are suffering from Alzheimer and dementia. When you look at the numbers here in Loudon County, conservatively, there's about 7,200 people, counting caregivers and those impacted that are affected by the disease. We hope to break ground around January 2nd. We're in fundraising right now. Our goal is $620,000. We don't have an estimate for the building. We hope to have the estimate for the building in the next few weeks. As far as the fundraising goes, we were off to a pretty successful start. We're at about 130 of the 620 that we need after about a month and a half of fundraising, so we're pretty happy with that. What we're looking for tonight is just to make you aware that we're here, that we're going to open the facility, and that anything you can do to help us, one, to get the word out, help us with our fundraising. We're not looking for money from you all, we're just looking for help in getting the word out. We would appreciate that very much. Bill?
I have not a whole lot more to say. I'm on the building committee for the board, and Jim is actually doing all the other jobs of the board. So if you have any questions about the new facility, I can answer those pretty well. But
I think it's an outstanding idea. In that community, for sure, my goodness, what a service that would be.
no doubt we will be of value to that community, but we're not exclusive to that community. We don't want to be exclusive to that community. We are anxious to serve the region, not just Tellico.
Even though the property's on the corner of 444 and 72, it's not meant to be just for Tellico Village. We really are. I've been out in Loudon County, I've been out in Monroe County, I've been everywhere I can to let people know this is for the community. And when you take both communities together, it's over 12,000 people that are impacted by this disease. And when you stop and think about it, it's not just the person that's impacted, but everybody around them.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job if you have somebody that's.
Well, and right now the closest facility is going to be up at Cades, which is in Farragut. So there's people that drive from.
Is Pastor Charlie going to be involved with
And
this endeavor?
Cades right now is closed.
Without Pastor Charlie, we would be nowhere right now.
Amen to
Pastor
that.
Charlie has raised probably 65% of the funds that we have so far today.
And he's riding his motorcycle 7,000 miles.
Yes, that's the next thing, big thing coming up.
I think Jeremy did a little article here that'll be out in the News Herald this week that you'll all be able to read about that. Any questions? Anything we can answer for you?
Just appreciate y'all very much, appreciate it.
We appreciate
Thank you.
you
Appreciate
too.
it too.
Looking forward to serving.
As the commissioner from the village, I commend you. And I wouldn't be fair if I didn't commend Sue Newman too.
Yes.
You have done an outstanding job,
Thank you.
but the problem's gonna be, it's gonna be too small.
Well, we know that, we've got plans built in, right now it'll house up to 25 people on a daily basis. And we can expand that, but first we need to get the first 25 going, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, we do have room on the site to expand to double our size pretty much. So
Good.
We may be doing that.
Well, congratulations. I
Thank you all for
fully
your time.
support that effort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jeannie Barker from Lenore City Schools, step up to the podium.
Hello, Commissioners. Since I'm a little bit far away, I'm going to go ahead and take this off. And I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you tonight about a concern that I have. First of all, I want to say that all of our school systems here in the county and the city have been recognized this past year as being exemplary. And so I just want to recognize the hard work of all of our teachers and our administrators in accomplishing that fact. In addition, all the schools in Lenore City were also reward schools. So there's a lot of hard work going on, and so it's my job to make sure that they are well supported. So as we look at the newspaper from last Wednesday, I saw where the commission was going to consider changing funding for Lenore City schools. And so that certainly raised my concern when I learned of that in the newspaper. And the statement that was made by Mr. Shaver, that it will not really affect Lenore City schools if you make this change, is incorrect. Let me say that. First of all, the amount of money that is going to be discussed a little bit later on is just shy of $50,000, and that is substantial. That is in our current budget, which has already been approved by our school board and the city council. As we work hard this year, you know the challenges that we're facing, and you know that we serve students from all over Loudon County as well as Lenore City. And we are using our dollars as efficiently as we can to provide safe and effective schooling for our students. Some of you on the commission know about the links that we've gone to acquire PPE for our teachers, sanitizing equipment for our schools, hand sanitizer, cleaning supplies. So we have been looking toward the best we can to make sure that we are opening schools in a healthy way. Because you know what, we believe that our mission is to educate students. To educate students so that they can be educated voters and effective members of the community. So that's our job. We are all about that. So I would say with the increase in our numbers, last year alone, we had 92 new students at Lenore City High School. So we are growing. And to do anything that would remove any funding from our school system would be detrimental. It would be doing harm. So I ask you to do no harm. Thank you.
Dr. Barker.
Thank you.
Yes.
I want to step up to the plate, and initially in the budget process, I brought up looking at the AFT, and as I advocated at that time, and as I advocate right now, if we can sit down with you, see where the money is going, if it's being utilized for AFT, as we passed this in '06, and what effect it would have on your budget and other things, I think that would be a good first step. So I want to make sure that you understand, I brought this up initially, but I brought it up also of trying to have dialogue with the school system and sitting down, and we were looking at every pot of money we could dealing with the budget, as you know, and that was a pretty large amount that was undisturbed at this time. So I want to step up and not let Mr. Shaver take all the blame. I'm bellying up to the bar, so to speak, and said my piece.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mears. I appreciate that, because yes, I was pretty mad at you, Mr. Shaver.
Wasn't the first time, I'll bet, was it?
I'm honest. And so, we can have this kind of dialogue. I have my business manager with me here today, and we can honestly say, this is a definite challenge to our school system, to make sure that we are using every dollar that we have available, to make sure we continue to have these kind of results that we're having. And in this day and time, safety is number one. And so we are putting all of our allocated money, and it's already allocated for this budget this year, to go forth to make sure that we open schools safely. So I'll be glad to talk with you. Thank you. Any other questions?
Does that take off your back, Mr. Shaver?
You did good.
I apologize for any thoughts I might have had.
That's all
Mr.
right.
Shaver.
You think less in a little while, that's okay.
He'll do something later on, so don't apologize. Thank you. Okay, before I turn it over to Jim Jenkins and the zoning issues, I'm gonna make a couple changes on the agenda. Adam Waller, your zoning stuff will come in right after C when Jim is done. Kelly Brewster, yours will go to the end. And Tracy, when we're done the first two items under my name, you're free to go. Van will take care of the budget amendments.
Are you gonna move the jail up to the, right after the zoning stuff? Because
No.
right now, we've got solid waste before the jail, we at least need to rotate those two.
We can do that. Is that all right with Steve? Okay.
We're gonna run out of space at the top. We keep moving everybody.
Yeah, you can't put everybody at the top. Okay, anybody have any problem with that? If not, Jim Jenkins, step up to the podium and tell us the zoning issues.
First item is a resolution amending the zoning map of Loudon County, Tennessee pursuant to chapter 13-7-105 of the Tennessee Code annotated to rezone approximately 17.3 acres from A1 Agricultural Forestry District to M1 General Industrial District, Loudon County Tax Map 006, parcel 021.01, located at 16250 El Camino Lane, Loudon County, Tennessee, situated in the 5th Legislative District.
Okay.
That's in our district, Mr. Chairman, mine and Commissioner Duff's. It's a business that's been operating at the end of the earth up there, to be very honest with you. It's a mulch, tree chopping, I
Okay.
don't know what it is. Whatever it is, they've been operating big time, and Jim spotted them out and said, guys, you're not zoned right, and I think the gentleman was very cooperative about it.
Yes, he is here.
And so he's asking me to rezone, and I certainly have no issue with it. It's an appropriate place for it, and getting the rezone corrected is real good.
Okay. Any other comments? That'll be on the August 3rd commission meeting. Okay. B.
This is a resolution to amend the Loudon County zoning resolution, Article 5 zoning district, Section 5.043, R1 suburban residential district, pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated Section 13-7-105.
2.5.
This is for a little history, this is the PUD section was amended a few years ago in the R1 section districts where it allows PUDs to be a maximum of 2.5 units per acre. And there was some thought that took care of a lot of all the properties, but there's a section in the R1 zoning that talks about multifamily development. And that was left out, and there's some that thought that was included and some that thought that was not applicable. Okay, this merely clarifies by amending these sections that whether it's a PUD, multifamily development, whatever it is in that R1 district, that development will be 2.5 units per acre. And so this chart basically sets that unit and it removes that table in that same section.
And we voted for this to send to planning commission, I'm gonna say probably in March or February, and with all the missed meetings and stuff, it's taken at this time this long to come back from us to the planning commission, back to us, as a recommendation from the planning commission,
It is a
correct?
recommendation, yes, sir.
Any other comments?
So that's everything, that's including the PUDs and,
Everything,
Yes,
yes.
ma'am, currently that covers everything at a maximum density.
Okay. We'll add that to the August 3rd commission meeting. Number C.
We got number C on here.
Yeah, R1 current, proposed language for referral by the Loudon County
I think
Commission.
that should be
I
part of
think
it.
she added that for this current and proposed as documentation, which is what I was covering. That was just a highlighted to show you all what the current standard is
Yeah,
and what's being changed in that.
I think there was just a communications issue
Yeah.
there.
I got you.
Pardon me, Tammy's home.
Well, stay right where you are.
Okay, go ahead, Adam Waller.
So, as your ad hoc zoning committee's been talking about stuff, PUDs always comes up. So tell us what a PUD is in your mind.
Plan
Truthfully,
Unit
I think
District.
a PUD is a plan unit development, and really it would look to be like larger tracts of ground where you can have, it's supposed to be this integral and this thought out concept of development. So when you think of a PUD, in my opinion, you're looking at something like Avalon, which is large tract. They have multi-uses, they have a golf course, they have a restaurant, things of that nature. Tennessee National is a PUD type development, even though it's in the city. Telego Village, they have different things that's occurring, and that's really, when you say PUD, it has this facet that it's supposed to be an integral community of that nature.
And right now we're using PUDs for,
Typically, we're using PUDs to just increase density of development. A lot of them merely have just smaller lot sizes to allow the maximum density of that property currently.
well, I know up on Highway 11, Stanford Bridge was supposed to have amenities in their preliminary plat for a PUD,
Yes, sir.
and then what happened in their final plat?
There was just things that happened and those amenities aren't there.
So,
What amenities should, could, or, again, you mentioned Avalon, Tennessee National, you have multi-use stuff, you have commercial, recreational, parks, open space, multifamily, single family.
There's nothing that specifies exactly what those amenities are to be, and when you read through that, the scope of what a PUD is, it leaves it to be a thoughtful, creative process in creating the development in and of itself. But there's definitely supposed to be some form of community that's formed through this that makes it unique in fashion, more or less.
Should, most of them though, in general, include things like walkways, play areas for kids, dog parks.
Yeah, I mean, that may be some of the
They
things.
have, open space that are supposed to be included with a PUD.
Yes, sir, there are supposed to be things of that nature, and some of them have been as simple as even clubhouses and pools and
Right.
walkways and spaces, but then we have these other PUD developments that are merely just dense development without anything provided.
so is even having just a clubhouse and a pool enough to really be a PUD? And what a PUD was meant to be?
I really think a PUD is a larger concept of development, honestly. You know, you can create a subdivision and just have a pool and a clubhouse and use that to sell the lots in your subdivision for amenities of that development. But a PUD is probably a larger scale development. Even there can be some slight commercial uses, government buildings, things of that nature, put in a real PUD development.
Doesn't a PUD have to have a certain amount of green space though?
It does, there's opening numbers in there, but a lot of times it's just,
Very small?
a lot of times it's just vacant, unusable land that gets included in
Are
the
detention
space.
ponds included in that number?
There's nothing that says, you know, really a PUD concept is something you create and you present this concept to the board to show this overall concept, and that's where they discuss. There should be interaction and, yeah,
So what we're making
it's very open, honestly.
Yeah, and it's too open for smaller numbers, in my opinion. So Van and I have been working on an R1, which we currently have at 2 per acre. Looking at an R2, which has a little more dense, 15,000 square foot lots, which are already available in the
In a cluster.
cluster development. But increasing that PUD number, which we talked to Jim the other day, and his numbers that we talked about was 75 acres for a PUD to have a full thought out plan. So that's just something to chew on, and
What's the minimum acreage required now?
Currently in the R1 and the C2 is 5 acres. In the A2 and C1 is 8 acres. They're pretty small tracts when you're talking about a great concept of development.
Many years ago, they were larger, And over time, they just kinda, I won't call a previous planner, but over time, they tended to get smaller and smaller depending on who had some property they wanted to. A PUD essentially just lets you violate the zoning regulations of what it does. It's 2 per acre, but if you get a PUD, you get 2.5. So the ideal, if you're gonna have a PUD with all these things it should have, you can't do that in 5 acres. There's no way. So to set a new minimum of what a PUD can be, kinda makes it a little more lucrative to add the amenities to it. I mean, you can't take out a quarter of your subdivision if it's 5 acres and put the pool, the clubhouse, the walking trail, the dog park. They're not gonna do it. They're gonna do just like this one up there on Highway 11. He stuck as many houses in there as he could, and he's got one little grown up bushy spot back there in the back, and that's it. And that's all it's ever gonna be, so.
With
That's,
that being said, we're looking at R2, which would be 3 per acre or 15,000 square foot lots.
15,000 square foot lots, 2.5 per acre.
That's 17,000, whatever. So I mean, we're looking at different options to give a little more dense option versus having to use a PUD and kind of using it inappropriately.
Well, I think you should give options on 75 acres is a lot of land. I mean, you might need to have options.
R2 and R3 is exactly where those are headed.
Yeah,
That's what he's talking about.
R2 would be roughly 2.5 or 3 per acre, and then R3 would be multifamily.
Smaller lots,
Yeah,
different requirements of what you got to have. You wouldn't have to have all of the amenities that a PUD requires. And then you also are looking at, and I don't want to get all into that because it's so complicated, the cluster. Jim loves the cluster option, which works real good in the R2 and the R3. So that's all coming together too. But right now, we're just sitting out there dangling on the PUD thing at 5 acres, where there's no way 5 acres could ever be what a PUD was intended. Like I said, Tennessee National,
Teleco Village.
Teleco Village, Rarity Point, or whatever it is, Wind River now, Avalon, that's what you're thinking. When the concept was first started, that's what they were for. They were never meant to have got shrunk down to a 5 acre piece of ground.
Any questions for Jim? I'm done.
Anything you want to add to the August 3rd meeting?
That?
No?
Yes, that.
That.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank
Go
you.
home, Jim. 75.
75, but we're also working on an A2, which would be 3 per acre, 2.5 per acre, somewhere.
Okay. Put it together and we'll put it on the August 3rd meeting.
That way you don't need all those, like,
Okay.
PUD requirements.
All right, next up, Buddy Bradshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one board and committee that I want to is our ethics committee. I would like to, one of our members of the ethics committee passed, Ms. Betty Brown, so I'd like to offer her up for her replacement to be Sergeant Scott Newman.
Okay.
Under the bylaws set forth, that does need to be a member of a board or commission of this county. We have 3 commissioners on it, and then our constitutional officer on that committee is Eddie Simpson.
What was Betty Brown, a board member of Election Commission?
Election
Is that
Commission.
what she qualified at?
Okay.
And then I do not see the others that I had that were there. They're not in here, so I think everything's stable unless,
I've got a planning commission member I'm gonna recommend after a
Okay.
while.
okay, good. We'll let that in mind as well whenever I get a fifth district recommendation.
Okay. You want to add them now, Scott Newman, or wait until August 3rd?
Well, that's who I intend to.
It'll be on
have
August
on
3rd.
August 3rd.
Okay,
Well,
got
I'll go ahead and tell you, I can take that one off my list right now. My recommendation is gonna be a fellow named, Keith Buckles. Keith Buckles, I think.
Jeremy's dad?
Yes, Jeremy's dad. He's, I think he'll make a good addition to the planning commission, very conservative, very willing to learn and be involved. And so I've talked to him over the last month or so about it, and he said, yes, he'd be willing to do it. So that's gonna be my recommendation for that.
Put those 2 on for August 3rd and it's done.
Sir.
Okay, next up,
Jail.
the Chief Deputy, Jimmy Davis. And come to the podium and tell us why in the News Herald we had to find out the building's falling down.
Now, hang on, Mr. Chairman, if I could indulge everybody, I would like to start from one different angle here and get some information in my face before we start hearing from any of the other people. Now, I'm gonna look at Tracy Blair.
I'm gonna look back.
I can't tell.
Ugly
Can't tell.
Ugly sight.
And I'm gonna ask her to tell us about the finances in a very short form, we started out at like $7.5 million. We had contingency money built in. What we've spent, not on what, but how much we spent and how much we've got left to finish up the rest of the project.
Okay, started out at 17 million.
17.
Started, once we issued bonds and we, paid the cost of issuance and we got premiums, we got, which were credits back, we had about $17.8 million that was deposited to the construction account. Now, to date, today, we have about $560,000 available. Keep in mind that $17.8 million, that included, of course, the $600,000 contingency. Out of the contingency funds, we have $126,326 available.
Say that number again, please.
126,326. $126,326.
Okay.
That is part of the 560,000.
Mhm.
The reason that, let me back up, which means that we've spent about $470,000 of the contingency. That's all on the change orders that have come in on the contract. But one of the things that happened with this that's a good thing for us is the investment income. Whenever we issue debt, the investment income can only go one of two places, unless it's specified in the resolution. It was not specified in this resolution that was adopted, but it either goes to retire the debt or it goes back to the construction account. Since it was not specified in the resolution, I checked with audit, it has gone back to the construction account. So since 2017, when this first started, we've actually earned $377,000 in investment income. So that's the reason that there's $500,000 left, considering that we've spent $470,000 of the contingency, if that makes sense. So the big picture, there's $560,000 available, unencumbered, no purchase orders, no contracts on that.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay. That answer your question, Commissioner
It
Shaver?
does. I just think this is a good place to start and work our way up to the rest of it. Because part of my questions and concern are gonna be, our big fear going in was what we were gonna hit in dirt. Nobody knew for sure, you couldn't tell. So the contingency, we were afraid might have to go to that. Maybe all of it, maybe more than that would it take to fix the dirt. Obviously, that wasn't our problem. Cause after we were a long way on, we still had, Ms. Blair, if I'm not mistaken, well into the project, we had spent very little of the contingency.
Yes.
So as this conversation continues in a little while with the other particulars, my big question is, I wanna know where the contingency money went, what was missed, how it was missed, why it was missed, and who missed it. That cost us $470,000. So as far as Tracy's part, she's giving me everything I need right now.
Okay.
So you take it from here, however you wanna lead it from here.
Jimmy, tell us about the article that Jeremy wrote. You would think it was falling down.
Jeremy made it up. No news, Nash.
First, I'd like to say, this is in my opinion, no way pointing fingers. I think a lot of it's misunderstanding. I, myself, and Jake, I know have had a good working relationship with NBI and Ralph. I just think it was just expectations I thought I had, that maybe it'd be my ignorance, because I don't build jails for a living by any means. Ms. Husky has explained a lot of things to me on how usually the system works. She's been a very important role in this process, I think very helpful to the sheriff's office during all this. Jeremy's article was asked because we keep getting asked, why isn't the jail open, why haven't we moved, why haven't we moved? The simple answer is it's not there yet. But when you look at emails that are back and forth from either MBI, Rouse, Ms. Husky, or myself, it's like, I need a date to move in. Some of the construction things that we've had problems with, things that I would think would be expected. Certain things would be expected that you would have in a jail. But like I said, I don't see all the blueprints, I don't see all the plans. Apparently there's volumes of specs. MBI creates the specs to build the jail. Rouse builds the jail as the specs tell them to build the jail. Fair? Fair enough. There's a few things that we saw that were, I don't know if they were mistakes whether, when I get caught with them and ask why we're spending some of the contingency money, which is taxpayer money, which is not included in the $17+ million, I got a little bit upset. I don't know if it was spec'd out like that, if the specs if the specs were wrong or missed it, whether it's done to lower the cost of the project, I don't know. I can give you some examples if you would like.
Please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Some of the examples was, when we first did a few of our walkthroughs, the sheriff actually noticed some discoloring of the block in the sally port, had a white or a film over it, and apparently it was leaking. Come to find out, that the block was waterproof, and I'm just going on what I was told, I may be incorrect, so correct me if I'm wrong. The block was waterproof, but the mortar was not waterproof. Kind of defeats the purpose. So, get Mr. Brown, maintenance director, involved, we look at it, it's gonna be around $11,000 charge to buy the sealer and to have it sealed. I think he and the construction manager, Joe, worked it out where it lowered the cost. But I was like, why are we spending contingency taxpayer money to fix a brand new building that's leaking?
Are you saying that they told you only the blocks were waterproof? They came waterproof?
And the mortar was not. Is that correct?
I grew up the son of a mason and have laid many blocks. I know industry has changed, but I've never heard of laying a pre-waterproofed block. That's done after everything's done. You waterproof the block after they're laid. That includes the mortar and the block.
I'm just going on what I was doing.
Did they say-
I don't be a builder, I don't have any idea.
Did they
That's
give
why-
you a bag with 3 magic beans in it?
No.
Dry lock would be as efficient, wouldn't it?
Well,
5
this-
gallons of dry lock would
I'm
be
just going on
$119
I'm just going on
at
some
Home
issues
Depot.
that have come up while I've been.
I'm
I
just
think
saying.
you're going right on.
You know, on the front of the building, there is a entry point where
Never heard of that.
our bonding company and or where we do our release into the secondary parking lot down close to Rescue Squad. There's an awning there, that's an entryway in and out of the building, and there's a camera there. Well, on the backside, straight on the opposite corner is another entry and exit with an awning, and there was not a camera designed to be put on that door. So I'm thinking, I was told, I think it's like $6,000 or something like that to put a camera on that back door. And I'm like, why would, if you put a camera on the front, why would you put one on the back? That's just questions that I've been having. One of the biggest was, we took a tour of Monroe County Jail, went down, looked at their jail. Of course, their jail was pretty much complete at that time. I saw a lot of things that I thought should be in our jail that was present in Monroe County, but was not present in ours, such as the prisoner pass-through and all the major pod doors. If many of y'all have been in there where the control room is, you have all the different pods in the mail section. The main doors do not have a food pass-through. All of the cell doors do, and the security cell has a pass-through. So to feed the 64 inmate males in minimum security, I have to open the door and feed them all. There's no pass-through, which is a safety concern. It would be very labor intensive if we had our max, say, move it to our maximum security, where the risk of assault, your bad boys, so to speak, would be, your maximum security inmates would be, you would either have to lock them in their individual cell and an officer run the food up to each individual cell and give it through their pass-through in their cell, or have them all out in their day room and you have that pass-through in the door, you could feed them there, be a lot less.
So how many cells does that affect?
I think it was,
How many it's pod
Yeah.
doors, right? How
So-
many pod doors?
That didn't get fixed yet,
Well,
right?
cell
it has been
doors.
fixed.
It has been fixed. Okay, it has been fixed.
Cell door too.
Yeah.
Cell doors have,
Door has
pod
it.
door
It's the
didn't.
pod
door
doors
went
that
into
need
the
it.
pod.
Did you have a cost on that one?
I did.
Jimmy, was it not in the specs when they were,
Apparently not.
Do you have that figure?
$27,656 and 11 doors. They were able, Joe helped us out, they were able to move a couple of doors where it was in a recreation room, but we moved it over to a pod door. So,
And you had to take that out of your contingency money?
Sir,
You had to take that 27,000 out of your contingency money?
I think it was paid out of contingency.
Well, the contingency money was all that's left, essentially. So whatever comes on these change
All the
orders
change orders are paid
is
out of the
gonna be out of the
Yeah,
contingency.
that
So
comes
these
out
are
of
all
that.
change orders, is
Yeah.
what he's
Okay.
basically saying.
And some of the things are, I would say, to be fair about it, I think some of our requests are facility specific. That may be exactly specific to our facility, maybe not to the others with all the money that's come out. Some things I had something to do with, something that did not.
But I mean, I don't think having a pass-through door, I mean, that should have been thought of by a construction engineer or whoever did this project. I mean, you're asking to send a guy.
I'm guilty of assuming a lot. Like I said, I don't build jails, I don't know, I mean,
Well,
it's
that's what I'm
and it's
saying.
no discredit to these gentlemen behind me, I think they're fantastic, but I just think those things should have been in
Well,
there.
and I agree, that's what I'm saying, you're not a builder. We've gotta foresee, and that's what their job is.
We're gonna have them at the podium in a minute.
So what's the next thing on your list, Jimmy?
Well, that or two is made, you know, we had a leak, actually, we were doing a walkthrough, Miss Husky was with us, and she actually noticed a closet in the very back next to, those of you who've been back there in the female portion of the building, at the end of the hall where the housing is on one and rec room is on the other, there was a back closet, and we had already predetermined that was gonna be a storage room for paper. There was a crack in the floor and water coming up through the crack. So she advised Mr. Brown, and he and Joe worked out a deal of how to fix it. And I'm assuming it's fixed now. I haven't been over there the last few days.
Did it get fixed? Anybody know?
Yeah.
Did that cost us money?
Did that cost us money?
Well, he said Mr. Brown, so you're assuming that if Brian Brown fixed it,
Well,
it cost
No,
us.
Joe worked
I was
on
gonna
it.
say, he
I mean, there was a
You're
way
right,
where they were
okay.
putting sealer over the top. Of course, I don't know what's gonna come back in the future. I don't know.
Where was the water coming from?
It's cracked. I don't know. I have no idea.
That'd have to be a pretty good body of water to come through.
And I think in
crack
the,
concrete.
when the article came out, we had a plumbing issue that Joe and everybody fixed, immediately is where the roof was, where say, I think the article, like, if the floor is leaking, the roof's leaking. That was actually a plumbing issue where they had a plumber in there and he didn't fix something back and it leaked and messed up the tiles and the camera, which has already been fixed.
Jimmy, once the jail is fixed and you are able to occupy it, how long is or what kind of warranty do we have on the roof? Can you
The
tell
roof
us?
wasn't leaking, it was piping
Okay.
in between the roof and the ceiling.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
plumber, it was just a plumbing issue and they fixed that and replaced it.
Are you fixing to take us into, missing, cable, missing wires, something like that? Was there not some major issue about, what I'm trying to say, what kind of wire was it?
Internet.
Internet or?
Yeah, well, of course, like I said, I don't build the buildings,
Ethernet.
I didn't see the specs or anything like that. I think, we didn't realize how much work that we were gonna be responsible for. It kinda caught us off guard. And,
I think that would catch us all off guard.
you know, I have an IT guy, he doubles as a narcotics investigator, and he has worked his tail off for several months trying to get internet, moving our internet system over, because, this year we went to an internet phone-based system and we went to the internet, records management system. So if our internet goes out, no of our phones work, none of our records management, which is booking in inmates, releasing inmates, entering reports, none of that is working. So internet is very important to the new facility. It's all running into that facility and being shot over Wi-Fi into our current building to run all of our office, computers over there.
So wasn't there a large miss of some fiber optic or something that was very expensive to come in after the fact and put in?
I don't know about the fiber, I didn't have anything to do it, I was just doing on the installation on the inside, where we had a Wi-Fi unit or a server or whatever that was put in, that was Spectrum, which took a long time. Of course, you gotta remember, in the midst of all this, COVID hit.
Sure.
So I'm sure a lot of their employees or laborers electricians weren't able to come and go as they please. So that was obviously an issue that they had to deal with, to where we put in our big server for our internet, they finally got in. Spectrum doesn't care if you're a single-family home or a big, large building like ours, you get in line and wait.
That's right.
Once it was put in, the electrical outlet was put on a opposite wall, so we had to stretch the cord across. There was trouble getting the electrician there, I believe because of probably COVID, it just took a long time to get that program, because once we programmed it, put all of our firewall and all of our information to it, as soon as you unplug it, when they fixed the outlet, it would lose all that, and you'd have to redo it. used another company, I think, can't remember the company's name, that's helped us do a lot of install on Wi-Fi, and,
Technical solution.
sounds right. Yeah, so they helped out quite a bit, tried to get all this situated. Of course, it was just something that I was just ignorant to, that we would be responsible.
Was something that we were supposed to be responsible for?
Apparently so.
Well, when we,
I can't imagine
When-
we're responsible for anything.
when we endeavored on this, we hired a architecture firm, and then in turn hired a builder that's supposed to have, both of them have experience in building jails. Is that not right? Have
Was it
built
ju-
more than one jail?
Was it just installing like one wire to the server and router, or was we're talking like
We
bunch of
had
wire?
several hands in it. One company brought the internet cable from outside into our data room inside the jail.
Okay.
One company ran the cable from the data room out to the jail, and then they left it to us to connect it. And that was,
I think when we sat down and had discussion and you all were discussing, we even mentioned that, and I think Susan Husky helped us with that too, and mentioned we need to make sure that we have, you know, all the correct phone system running, the internet running, all of those things running. Am I correct, Susan?
What is the present, completion date?
What?
Those costs were not included in Rouse's contract, those were additional costs outside of their contract that provision was made for in bond money, is that what you call it, Tracy, to cover those costs, so it went as, those electrical, internet connections and all that was not included in the construction.
Is that a normal thing
How's
that they
that
do?
possible?
That's typical.
But we knew that ahead of time going into it, and we had money set aside for it.
Yes, we did.
We
Okay.
did, yes, we did.
Okay.
Cause I remember we had talked about that.
Yes, we did.
But that's what I say, a lot of the things I just may not have been privy to, it was just, I was just astonished sometimes, like, we have to do that too, we have to do that. A lot of this, like I said, is facility specific. Some things, are up for argument, I guess, or discussion.
What's your present, completion date?
We worked with Joe a lot the last few weeks, on trying to get it completely finished. One thing I guess I was involved in, were the way the floors look, but they said that was the color that was chosen. I don't know, it doesn't look like a finished floor to me. But I think Joe actually went over there himself and did some work, on his own to try to help us out in that aspect of it. We have 2 shower lights, that we've asked to be fixed. Talked to Joe about them last week, and they have, he said they had security plates on them. So until we wanted to use lights from our construction area to move them over to put them in the new, we checked and only one of them actually has a plate on it. And one of them does not. No lights in the 64-man cell. None of the lights work in the shower area. So we're waiting on that. A lot of the things that we're waiting on right now, the main things we're waiting on is one of the vendors that we're using for our touch screens and our camera system. Captain Keener went over there a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago probably now, just doing his punch list and checking through and seeing what still needed to be done. He was trying to turn on the light because he found a closet that didn't have a light in it. So he's trying to find on the touch screen where to turn it on, so he's hitting buttons, and he's watching out of the corner of his eye, peripheral, he sees lights going on and off in the opposite. Now, that is not their concern, that's another vendor that we have that's been working on it. Of course, it took them a while, because they had to get the internet in before they could sign in off-site and start trying to reprogram and fix things like that.
Turn the traffic light off out there.
So that is some of the things that just still aren't done yet, you know, we're still working on it.
Any idea when it'll be done?
Hopefully soon.
Come on, man, it's supposed to be done in January, what's soon?
Well, I don't know, I'm hoping, within a couple of weeks,
I mean, he's at the mercy of vendors.
Oh, I agree.
I can't move, I can't move.
He can't make them come to work.
I can't put anybody in that 64-man pod until the lights are fixed or capped or something. I just can't.
And
Who's responsible for capping those lights?
I would assume construction.
Okay.
And we've talked about it, Joe's been trying to work on it, but I mean,
Well, we've got a letter, an email that said that the CO was issued in March. With a CO in March and lights not working, there's a disconnect somewhere. You can't get a CO if you've got no shower lights.
Right.
So, how do we,
How's that work?
a CO generally would mean everything is working and ready to go.
Yeah, we had, Tina went over there, we had a table, maybe just, if you'll explain some of those things.
Sure. Well, you know, we've got a plumbing issue in laundry. They delivered a sink that,
Is this outstanding right now as we speak?
yes.
Okay,
I
say that again.
I took these pictures today.
What was it?
A sink in laundry that was delivered, and he said that he would install it, the delivery guy, if it was plumbed, and it wasn't plumbed the way he wanted.
All right, who is on what for that? Is that construction here or is that us that's,
I don't know.
who's in charge of the plumbing? Who put the plumbing in?
Construction.
Okay.
Then we have, of course, the lights in the showers. The kitchen, we have just an open foam box on the wall that needs, number one, it needs wires run through it, and then it needs to be covered.
Probably a vendor. Is that probably a vendor guy?
Probably. And then we have a couple issues in our female control room with some window tinning and a loose handrail on the stairs.
Construction?
Construction. Now, I don't know who's responsible for tinning. Joe and I were over there with them when they started, but they've not finished.
I think in the original specs, they didn't deem that those windows needed to be tinted. If you're in the mail pod and you're walking around the, control tower, you can see into the pod, but the pod cannot see out into the hallway. I think originally under design, since that those windows were not open to a hallway, they did not need to be tinted. So that's why the mail pod is, because they have a hallway right outside those huge windows. The issue was shown to us, and we were going to do a walkthrough, those weren't tinted, and there's the upper mezzanine walkway where you can stand on that mezzanine walkway inside the pod and look straight down in the control room. And also the inmates can look up and see the big giant screen TV to show your cameras, which is a security issue. And I think they also felt that, after looking at it, they probably need to be tinted as well. So we started working with a local vendor on how to get tint. We've been probably in there 3 or 4 times before we go, trying to get them to tint it to where it's sufficient. It hasn't had I haven't had a whole lot of luck with getting that tinted to our satisfaction, because you can still see through the tint, because it's a well-lit area, and still see the cameras that the control room officer is watching. So if you have an assault risk or a tip, just to give you an example of an assault that may happen in this pod or this area, you know, we're gonna watch it and watch that action, that kind of stuff, because it's a security issue.
I would say the tinting then is vendor.
Gotta be.
I would say vendor, but we've tried to, and I guess that was a cost that would come back on us. I felt it should have been done up front, but
Who
that's
is
just my
considered
opinion.
the construction manager over the project?
Roush?
Roush? I mean, shouldn't Roush, these are police officers. They're not construction folks. Shouldn't Roush be overseeing every single one of these issues?
We're fixing to
Yeah,
have the
we-
next
we've
batch
talked-
to the
We've
podium.
had discussions with them, and we, like I said, we've worked well with them, trying to get these things done. They did tint, we have a walk-in or a small person sally port where someone comes into the pod. They're just in that secure pod before they are let into the main housing area. That was not tinted. It has been tinted, and it looks like it's been tinted properly with the mirror tint where you cannot see into that.
Right.
Area.
Is that the one that's got the flush and floor drain? Whoosh.
No,
Oh, that was cool.
no, that's over the side.
That'd be your drug tank.
I tell you, you got it or amazing, but anyway. So we're waiting on some tint into the housing unit in the female pod, trying to get that finished.
What I'm looking at right now, just the minimal things you called, and Susan Husky probably lends your ear to this. The things you called off and just gave some roundabout numbers, we're talking about $45,000 or so spent out of contingency. We've spent $470,000. So I'm going to assume that Susan is going to be able to tell us at some point a whole lot more money that's been spent on vendors that was not included in the original contract, is what my assumption would be. And a vendor, most of the vendors shouldn't come in as a change order, I wouldn't think. A change order should have been something changed from the original construction specs. Like Kelly said, we knew there were things we were gonna be doing on our own. So that was a known commodity going into it. But a change order and hiring a vendor to do a job is two different things. So I'm real interested on where the contingency money has gone, specifically $470,000, and well, 435.25 now that you've come up with 45. So that's gonna be an interesting question for me. For MBI, well, I guess we'll finish with you before we start on.
Can I go over this?
Yes.
Okay, I can give you a little, brief rundown.
All right.
On the 400,000?
Are these change orders, these vendors?
These are change orders that we have, paid for us in, 522 of 18, slope fill at rear exiting building, $9,936. 726 of 18, temporary fence enclosure at the rear of exterior, $3,007. 720 of 18, increased sanitary pump motor horsepower, $1,148. 920 of 18, revised electrical changes, $49,678. 612 of 19, plumbing vent change, $7,672. 1115 of 19, miscellaneous directed revisions, $17,159. 11020, I'm assuming renovate 13, and miscellaneous changes, $20,900. Renovate, it's REB, I'm not sure what that stands for. 11, and other earthwork grading revisions, $7,879. Fire alarm smoke detectors, $21,396.
Is that because they forgot to put them in the original specs, or what are we talking about there?
I don't know, if I had to guess, I'd say the fire marshal came in and said that, it needed to add, or, I don't know, best my answer is, power to Johnson control panel, $10,797.
What does that mean? Power to Johnson control
Johnson
panel?
control panels, I guess that's our vendor that runs our heat and air.
Isn't that for the standby generator?
I'm not sure.
Susan, do you know what that is?
What was the dollar amount?
Brian handled that.
$10,797. And that was all on 110 of 20. 226 of 20. Add hail guards to 16 rooftop mechanical units. $20,352.
Hail guards?
Now,
Hail guards.
who tells them that they need to put the hail guards on there, sir?
Sir?
Who tells them they need to put the hail guards on?
No idea.
I think that'll be a question for our next round.
They were
And
probably
we
they
did
probably
not know that we
requested-
got hail here in Tennessee before.
Question for the next round.
Okay.
Kitchen storage renovation at
I think we just need
exiting
a list
building.
instead of.
32120 is $96,935. Kitchen storage
Yeah,
renovation.
we'll be
at
coming back
exiting
talking about
building.
that.
Oh my God.
Add food pass-throughs to 7 day room doors, $27,656.
That was to move the doors, correct?
That was to cut the holes in
Add the
it.
pass-through to the doors. To 7 doors, $27,656. And that I requested that for sure. Total $414,830. I missed one. New parking lot and sidewalk, $84,198.
Is that something you guys requested?
I think we knew on the front end, we didn't allow for nothing but gravel.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. What was the cost on that?
$84,000.
$84,189.21. there's
Don't
an
I remember
exterior
that?
parking lot that when people are released or visit or whatever, it's outside the security area, which wasn't needed. We needed extra parking because
Is that the little small parking lot?
I assume that's what that would be, because there's a large sidewalk that walks down to how you can actually enter and exit the building in the unsecured area.
It's the one that you can't really turn around.
That's on the downslope going towards the fire. Hall. Like I said, I don't know, I know I asked for the changes in the pass-through, because I thought that was a security and officer safety risk.
Sure.
I'm not,
I think we always know there's gonna be things as we go
And I
along
think
and
there were
find.
some things that they may have missed, I don't know, or that Mr. Brown may have requested, or that they worked on to come to an agreement on fixing. I had no idea.
Ryan was supposed to be here tonight, but I believe he's what, in sick bay?
Mm-hmm. He probably can't already understand him on the phone.
What?
Yes.
Boom, 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 boom.
You need a sign that says yes or no.
I think you've been very, very informative for this section of it, Jimmy.
Well, I mean, again, I think these two have been very easy to work with. It's just a few things that I, like I said, maybe ignorance on my part, I thought would be automatics. But
Are the leaks and the stuff that was in the paper all fixed?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to be clear, for my part, I can't speak for anybody else. I'm not here trying to pit anybody against anybody, point fingers or anything. We don't know nothing. This is how it should be. We've stayed out of it. We've hired professionals from the top to the bottom. We've got our people working on it. We've got maintenance working on it. We see an article that says, we don't know that. I hear numbers from Tracy that I'm thinking, whoa, where did all that money go? So all we really wanted was everybody here at one time so we can understand. I don't know if there's anything wrong with any of this, but I just need to understand for my part's all I'm looking for.
Well, like you, I get the calls of when we're going to open, I don't have a date till a few things are fixed. And like I said, the main stumbling block now would be a vendor trying to get that done. Of course, that could have been delayed by getting the internet service in. You know, things
Sure.
like that.
How many
So,
prisoners do we have right now?
6 months is long.
108.
108? So we got enough to do a walkthrough then and see if it works.
We've got staff, I'm ready.
We got staff.
I'm ready.
My question is, so when we move them all to the new jail, we have to renovate the old jail. How much is that gonna cost?
That's figured in, the total, that's just phase 2.
That was supposed to
And
be part of
they're ready
this.
to move in, but it's just, I
But
can't move inmates in there now.
But how much money do we have left?
we've got $500-something thousand.
That's on the contingency money, the other project was.
There is no other money left. All the money's gone.
Wasn't that part of the original bill? Bid?
I would think so.
He's shaking his head.
I'm seeing
yes.
all the heads back there moving, so they're gonna enlighten us on that one in a minute. Apparently, the rest of the work you're gonna do is not gonna cost us anything, is what I'm hoping I hear.
No, he's shaking his head
There
no.
will be no change orders, there'll be no uh-ohs, there'll be no mistakes. The next part will be just sing, zang, zoom.
Okay.
What world do you live in?
A happy place.
The 5th district.
5th district.
So
Very nice.
Susan or Betty, when we, I date myself, I go back some years ago that when we used to do projects like this, we had what was called a
Clerk of the work, Roy Bledsoe.
And, but in this instance, was there any one person that was responsible for?
Sound like Jimmy Davis was the clerk of the work.
No. I just would,
Jay and
it was
crew.
a combined effort.
MBI would be what I would consider the modern day version of clerk of the work.
But they just drew it.
Brian and I served as the clerk of the works.
Your clerk of
and we
works.
worked
Okay.
very hard on this project.
All right.
Very able.
Okay.
Susan's the clerk of the work.
Anything else for Jimmy and Jake?
I'm ready for the next one.
We'll stay around.
Okay, who wants to come up next? Jay? Anything you want to add to it? Because I'll tell you what, personally, for everybody in the room, I get the News Herald on Wednesday and I drink my coffee and read it. And it was a shock to read that article. That's my humble opinion.
Way to go, Jeremy.
I'll address the article.
Thanks,
first.
Jeremy. You ruined my coffee that morning.
I'll address the article, and then I'll start trying to go backwards from what I heard. I may not remember them all, so ask questions.
We got it
okay?
wrote down.
Okay? First is the leak from the floor. That's an existing foundation that's exposed where the building flooded up. There was a leak there. And try to determine was there a way to get under the existing building to find where the water was coming from, or obviously you're not going to mine underneath the existing building to get there. Try to do a couple different things. We finally did a surface repair on it, and that's probably been a month and a half ago. And our understanding is it's not leaked since that point, so they did a surface repair.
You're showing where the new building and the old
It
building.
comes together, there's part of the foundation because of the way that building steps that was exposed. So it was a crack in the existing foundation.
Okay.
Before, the water probably was coming from under the building and right back out under the
Well,
soil.
I was really concerned when it says coming through the concrete. I thought, what have we built on top of it, if it come through the.
Did it get fixed, sir?
Yes, sir.
And the most water, now I may not see the worst, but the most water I ever saw back there would probably been a couple of glasses full. I mean, it wasn't like it was just pouring through.
Okay.
How
Was
much do you think you had made of area about that big?
Had a worst case scenario.
Was it
Yeah.
rainwater
It
that
was
seeped
rainwater,
through?
when it rained
Okay, so
extremely
no
hard.
subsurface problems, nothing like
No.
that?
I heard
That-
they were
that's water
having
that's
boat
coming
races
down
back
the,
there.
outside the existing building, get under the existing foundation.
Okay.
And the existing foundation is exposed in there.
And would that be considered a change order? Would that's a
No,
correction?
it's a repair.
I think they just repaired it.
Repair, okay,
They just repaired it. Okay?
all right.
All right.
All right. I think it's already been addressed pretty well, the one from above. That was just a plumbing joint that probably wasn't soldered quite correctly, and it started leaking, and that can happen in any job, any place, anytime. That's not unusual. They fixed it, dried it up, it's done. The other one is a little bit more complicated. That is at the vehicle sally port. Yes, I think you were bringing up about the block earlier. There is block you can get now that has admixture in it that's supposed to slow down the penetration of water, okay? At that location, it's one white the block. All the rest of the building has a airspace and brick, or airspace and metal, or airspace in the block, and the water gets in the airspace, goes down and weeps out. Here, obviously, it can't, it's just one white, or one width of block.
Is it just a exposed wall or whatever, or is it backed up with dirt, or?
It's just an exposed wall. It's basically where you drive into the carport there, the garage with vehicles, and the big doors open up. When it rained hard, we started seeing effervescence. You know what that is. That's just the white stuff where the salts are coming out, but the water was getting into it. We started investigating what was going on. Well, the block says should waterproof mortar. The mortar specification didn't say that. So when they did it, they didn't pick up on the waterproof mortar.
What if the block hadn't been waterproof?
It would have come through it anyways. And you would have
Okay.
had to seal it on the outside, which is what was done at no cost to the county.
Okay, so that's fixed.
That's fixed. Am I right about that, Al?
We did it, we had turned the change order in and requested because it wasn't included in the original documents. It became a little contentious, therefore, we negotiated with our masonry contractor and sealed the sally port
Is the,
at no cost.
is the
So
block,
it's fixed.
is the block exposed, or is it veneered with brick?
It's just
It's all exposed block.
Yeah.
It's
Just
one layer of
block.
block. It's one layer of block.
Oh, okay, well, I was
But
thinking,
it's a finished, and it's not just a plain old cinder block surface on the front, is it?
On the
That's what I'm
outside,
thinking of.
some of them are smooth and some of them are
Okay.
the rough base.
Right.
Inside, it's all smooth.
Right.
It's a colored block.
Will that be something we have to repeat and do on a regular basis?
Probably about 5 to 7 years.
Alright.
Now,
And it's just on Sallyport end
it's
anyhow,
only
right?
on the Sally Port outside walls. Now, realistically, when weather's bad and it's raining, those doors are going up and down and cars are coming in and out of there, guess what? It's gonna be
hard to tell the
wetted.
difference.
Right.
well, I'd hate to have something, stain or something there while we're bringing.
So,
I wouldn't want, I'd hate for it not to be
there was
aesthetically
no
pleasing.
pouring, there's gonna be
I'm gonna lose sleep on that.
There's gonna be more water on the floor
Sure.
from the cars coming in, the rain coming through the doors.
That clears.
This was just water that's getting in the block and the effervescence is coming out the backside, you're seeing the wall.
And I think the concern is here, the fact, 17 million, we don't wanna start out with stained walls. If it stains later on, well, things happen. Right now, we want everything to be just right when we go in there.
Tell me one more time, that, you said the block are how are they waterproof?
There's an admixture that's added to the block
When
that
they
helps it resist water infiltration. The same thing can be added to mortar to help
Is it
resist.
supposed to be like 100, doesn't
Is it
have anything to do with the jail, it
100%?
just intrigues me that.
Water, it's not water resistance or water, it's a water repellent
Water
basically.
repellent, okay.
It helps reduce the amount.
Neat, okay.
So the bottom line is, Jay, the leaks that Jeremy wrote about in the News Herald have been fixed.
They've been fixed. Now, I know the list that the chief deputy was reading down there. Behind that list, for how the discretionary money has been spent, there's probably that much backup. And I think you and also Mr. Brown probably have copies of every one of those backups, and I can get everyone. So there's as much data as you want, and every one of those were investigated, beaten, squashed, everything that could be done. There was multiple things that happened. Existing conditions were some of the things, okay? Existing things that happened on the site. Some of them were things that just weren't in the documents. That happens sometimes. And I'll go back to the issue about the pass-throughs here in a minute. Some of them were just things you get into construction and things don't work out always the way you think they're going to, matching up. So, and some of the things were things that were asked by the sheriff's department, and some of them were things that Brian Brown says, hey, I would really like to add that because in the long run, I think it'll save me money, like the hail guards on the HVAC units. Do they come naturally that way in this area? No, they typically do not come that. That's an add-on. He thought for $3,000 a unit, it was worth doing it because there's like 21 units up there. I mean, that's just more.
It was about $20,000.
It's about $20,000. It was like about $1,500 a unit, I guess. There's about 15, 16 units up there. So it wasn't.
Brian requested that.
Brian requested. So there's a little bit of everything. It's the reason you almost have to see all that backup. I'm not trying to dance around, but if you really want to know what's going on, you need to see some of that backup. It's not an easy, quick answer. And I'm more willing to sit down and go through every one of those with you.
I personally don't need all the backup. All I need was, I'm already hearing a lot of things I just need to hear. No biggies. That one was, and I don't know if you were planning to do the list, but of course, the $96,000 one will be very interesting
What was
to
the
me.
96?
I can't read my writing. I don't know. What was 96,000, Jimmy?
Kitchen into a storage.
Kitchen storage, yeah, kitchen storage.
Oh, okay.
How did that come about? That's a whopper there.
Okay.
That's a big
The
$100,000.
kitchen storage, as we were finishing up the project there, seeing what contingency was left,
Don't say it that
then
way.
what.
See, that's the
I
thing.
am gonna be honest with you, see what contingency was left, what the sheriff's department needed, what they're really hurting on is storage. So, the old existing kitchen was just gonna be left as it was sitting there with all the equipment, gas lines and everything else, just as it is. There's nothing happening, it was not part of the original job, partly because we tried to make this thing as cost effective as possible, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. But there was nothing to do that. So the question was asked, what does it take to get all the equipment out of there, get the gas piping out, to make it a fifth room, overhead door so they can back a vehicle in there and use it as storage? And I don't know what kind of
That was requested by us.
Yeah.
That was requested by the sheriff's department and approved by who? Susan?
Me and Brian and I.
Okay, I don't have a problem with it.
So,
I have a problem with we're running out of money for phase 2.
Well,
We
no,
don't need
phase
any more
two
money
is
for
done.
phase 2.
well, the one thing that I've always said, guys, as we go through here, we want to have 100 to 125,000 for this phase 2. And the reason is, we don't know when you tear into that old jail walls, you can't see what's in the walls, you can't see what's in the floor, you can't see what's in the ceiling. We may not spend but very little there, but you better, that contingency is sort of your insurance for things you don't know. That's the last part of how the this uses things you just don't know.
What did you say? We have 126,000 of contingency
I
left.
think that's what you said. In my mind, it's around about 125.
let's call it 120 and save a little there, what do you think?
Yeah.
Let's call it 120.
Hopefully you don't have to spend that
Oh, that'd be
much,
great.
but we don't know. We don't know, so that's the insurance for what's not left. And I think the number you gave me ago probably included, what's in the contract to finish up that phase 2.
Say that again?
That was total.
Yeah, that was a total number, so she already had in her number, the fee, their.
So nothing else is coming out of what we have left unless there's a contingency problem. It's already paid for over there.
It's in the contract.
It's in the contract.
Phase 2, the completion of the phase 2, what shows on the construction documents is included in our contract.
So we're not paying for that. They're doing it.
Well,
It's
we
part of
paid
the-
for it, we
Yeah,
paid for it,
Yeah, we're not
but
paying.
we've already paid for it, the way I'm understanding.
Basically that.
He says
Our
no.
round numbers, $16,250,000, which was the cost, included that contingency. When it's done, you should have spent 16 million something, and, you know, you're not going to go over that 16.25. That's our goal.
Tracy Blair,
Yes, sir.
if it costs a contingency of $126,326 to finish up the next part, then we should have a tad left.
Yeah, she made your money make money.
Yes.
Huh?
She made your money make money.
Oh, absolutely, that's what I'm going for. I guess I'll speak for me, and I know just conversations early on, I think a lot of us had kind of hoped that there might be some contingency left once we got past the dirt. There was so much conversation about, we don't know till we hit it, we don't know if we're gonna have enough to do this, so we built that contingency in because we thought we may have to bring dirt or anything in here. So I guess for myself, I think, okay, the dirt worked out great, so everything else is in the contract, so that contingency money ought to be safe, and we'll save a little money in the process. I understand now how we've gotten to where we're at, we've spent it.
Well, because they looked at to see how much contingency money's left, and then
And
spent.
that 96 isn't spent. Now, that's.
You know, I mean, there's lots of people needing things in the
Sounds like
county.
Poplar Springs.
Lots of things.
Money to me.
Needing money in the county, and if we just see how much is left, and we'll just spend that until
Well,
it's
that
all
got
gone.
better when the money run out.
Now, I'm gonna get out of my line of work here. I know you've got a certain bond that you got to build the jail. If you've got money left, do you use it for other things, or does it have
Just
to
the
go to
debt.
jail?
Just the debt.
Okay. So I think if you're thinking about using it towards schools or something else, I think we may have.
No, less debt, no, we know we can't move it around, but
No.
we can make the debt less.
So right now, between the remaining that's there for the unknown conditions for the phase 2, what's there to do the storage project, there is approximately $225,000 that have not been spent yet.
Well, don't spend it.
Well, but there's other issues, and I don't know if it's your responsibility or construction, but Chief Davis mentioned lights in the shower not working, phone issues. Is all that stuff paid for? And we're just waiting for it to be done?
What about the light,
Is that-
No, address the light
Guards or
issues,
whatever.
I don't really know about that, and the lights were working when I was.
One of them didn't have a light.
There were some lights that weren't shown on the drawings in those showers. We recognized the need for them, so we roughed them in. And then the lights we had left over, we installed, we donated them. We were too short, they ordered them, comes from a company in Mexico that's closed because of COVID. The fire marshal's fine. Well, it wasn't a fire marshal issue. You can still see, it's not as though there's a room with a door that's dark in there. It's open. Right.
But from Chief Davis, they don't come on at all, correct, Chief?
Well, the breaker's turned off because one of them has a plate and one of them is exposed wire.
I got you.
Okay.
So is that an ad, or is that just, something It was to a be finished? donation. It's just something to be finished, so that's gonna be done. There's no additional cost.
Thank you.
Just being taken
But
care
what
of.
about all the security plates over lights?
That's the law.
Okay.
That's what they're talking about.
So that's gonna be fixed.
So that's all gonna be taken care of.
Is that what you hear?
And if I remember right, the sewer problem was to help the fire department
That
out.
is part of the ones, and that's the reason I say you've got to see a lot of the backup, because part of that was, were they moved, was the rescue squad moving, was the rescue squad not moving? You know, or, and if they'd moved, they wouldn't have needed the pump, but they didn't move, so they had to get their hoop from there back through our system.
And we approved that at a
We talked
commission
about that, we
meeting.
sure did.
I know all about that. because they were pumping the tank or whatever they do.
Which if they left, that was the cheapest way to go, but, they're still there. and
They're still there. and it
Still gonna be there a
doesn't
while
look-
too.
Yeah.
They don't look like they're going anywhere soon.
I had a thought while I was in my thinking place just now. Have we paid you all in full? Are you done? Are y'all paid in full?
No.
Huh?
No,
What?
we still got the phase 2 to finish. We've been waiting for
Is
several
that
months.
including that 126,326?
Okay, got one man shaking his
Their
head back
cost-
here
their
now.
cost has been, is already accounted for in architectural fees, POs cut at the beginning of the project.
Yeah, it's,
Money's gone, money's spent, Tracy Blair?
Their,
It's covered.
What
their
she's saying is
remaining
it's
money is
encumbered.
still sitting on a PO once we're invoiced for phase 2.
Got it.
yeah, our cost is not in with Rouse's, our cost is not in the discretionary fund. It is a separate.
But it's not, whatever's left's not coming out of this last little bit we got. Okay, that's,
It's
that,
a
in my book, that means you're paid in full.
Right, there's a place we're being paid.
It's sitting on a PO waiting to be filled, right, Susan?
All right, have we answered got all the questions answered for the
I just
jail?
wanna know how it was missing the pass-through slot on the doors.
Okay, let me talk about the pass-through. Let me talk about the communications, because I've heard several things here. Some of them matched what was going on, some weren't. In the design for the jail, all the security cameras, door locking systems, intercom systems, everything's part of the security system, is part of the design that's being provided, and it's under Rouse's, and it was provided by ESITech. And it's designed by a company I work with called Loudon. The low voltage systems for your computers and your telephone systems, that is typically provided by the owner. I don't care if it's an office building or if it's a jail. Monroe County, they had their own people actually even pulling the wires on that and making the final connections. I'm trying to remember, did you all pull the wires or just pull strings for it?
For,
The low voltage telephone systems?
no, we didn't, no, we roughed in Colster.
You just put the pull string. That is typical. That is the typical. Otherwise, you're paying them for the wire and installing the wire. And that was unknown on the front end, but I don't know if y'all work with Charter or whoever you work with, but your vendor was going to take care of that.
That's at the beginning of the contract, when you all were in negotiations with MBI, I kept saying, I need money for phones.
I
Yes, you
remember
did.
that conversation.
I remember.
All of your IT infrastructure, your phones are not included in these contracts, and so the owner's responsible for phones, IT equipment, all of that stuff is not part of their contract. And that's typical in today's work. 30 years ago, a lot of that stuff would be included, but over time, and you might, Jay, say, comment on this as well. Over time, things have been, there's been a stopping point. Used to, sometimes we would do a contract and it included all furniture in the school. Those days are over. They give you design for the building and then you're left, purchasing ends up working with furniture vendors to determine how many desks can fit in a classroom and how many chairs do we need, and how many desks do we need. Those days of that being provided by an architect are pretty much over in order to trim costs from your project. So when you say 15 mil, it trims off a lot of those items and they become an owner responsibility. But that's very, very typical. I was not caught off guard by any of this. These were all things that I expected in this project.
What you Brian was caught off guard was COVID and these vendors not being able to perform. I shouldn't say it that way, but it took a long time to get them in there and do what they needed to do.
Yes, we have needs in pulling cables and
So,
hiring vendors.
I remember that, I'm sorry, I remember that conversation. So, I guess my bottom line question is, do we have that stuff covered? So that we don't have police officers trying to take
We had money built into, in addition to the 15 mil, we had money built into bond money to cover phones, IT equipment, inmate storage was another one that was 59,000. Those were all things that was not included, but we knew those expenses were coming, and so they were money provided for in the bond money to cover these expenses.
We bought our own kitchen stuff too, didn't we? Susan?
Yes, we
Yeah.
actually saved $40,000 by purchasing our own laundry and kitchen equipment.
I remember that.
So that's where probably the sink in the laundry, the guy delivered it says, oh, I can't hook this up just the way it's sitting here. Well, that's the interface between somebody doing the plumbing and him getting everything synced. That's what's gonna happen when you buy your own. But the conduits and the back boxes, and they put a string through there for them to pull it, it was there for that vendor to do the work. Now, Jimmy doesn't need to offend you, but I will here just a little bit. One of the difficult things was, all the way from our design on, is they do not have anybody that's basically on staff or anyone in the county that's just handling low voltage type designs like they did at Monroe County. And so we actually, when we were trying to get conduits design and how things were gonna go, we were working with a guy at LCUB who used to work with the sheriff's department because he knew the systems the best. So that's just a weakness, a difficulty that you've overcome now, but it was a difficulty. Pie holes.
Pie holes, the door.
The doors. Okay, Monroe County, those are in the doors at the cell blocks. Those were not put in the doors at the cell blocks to pass food through. And Monroe County, the sheriff asked for those, or the chief deputy asked for those, to actually be able to drop a smoke bomb through there, because I'm told you don't say tear gas anymore. And they actually tested that and did things with the smoke back system to see how fast it cleared out there. You don't want it to clear too fast, but you do want it to clear out. So that's what those were in. Now, typically, do we put those in there? No, we do not, because typically, if it's a high security, you have them all in their cell, and you roll the food in there, and I know that's a problem for Jimmy, that means somebody's carrying the food to each one, but typically, they do not hand every meal through the door. Now, can that be done, and that's how his operation is gonna be done? Sure enough. So, if that's how they wanna do it, they've been added, but that just wasn't anticipated on the front end. It's a matter of how you wanna handle the food. Most of them do not pass it through, because you imagine if you got 64 people in a dorm area there, you're passing a lot of meals through there. I got a feeling at least one or two are gonna get dropped in the floor, and it's gonna be a mess. It's easier to just roll them in. So, that's one of those communications, one of those things. We didn't know your expectation, and you didn't know what was coming. So, and that's what the discretionary fund is sort of there for, is for the things that we may not know. What other ones up there that would you like to talk about more for you?
I have one, I think, for Susan. Are the vendors covered now? Have we paid them as the money? Are they on POs? Is all that done?
I don't know what's lacking because I'm dependent upon Jimmy or Chief Davis to notify me of any other additional IT infrastructure equipment. We bought some chairs, we've got, various miscellaneous items that we purchased for the kitchen. You know, you've got mixers and things like that. I think Jimmy, Chief Davis even took some of that out of his own budget, but, we're about to wrap things up.
And you usually got mattresses. There's a lot of things that's above you.
Yes, we bought, that was
What's that?
$11,000 worth of mattresses, that's not included in the contract, but we bought it out of this money, bond money.
Some of the things we're waiting on now is, I talked to the 2 fire chiefs in the last couple of weeks, and I don't know who's responsible. They haven't been trained on the smoke system, on how to evacuate the smoke out of a certain cell, like if the cell fills up with smoke. They're supposed to be trained, and I know how much trouble we have out of the board this big in our new jail now, and the other one's the size of this door. So, they have to be trained. SE-Tech right now is, I would say, would be our main stumbling block on getting things done, be able to move in, and Jake talks with them regularly on trying to fix our punching buttons and other things that are turning on and off in other parts of the building.
Now, Alan, is that really SE-Tech on the smoking back system? I thought that was the guy that did the
Smoke back
work.
system is Johnson Controls.
Johnson Controls and balance
And
guy.
training was held with all of Brian's guys and anybody else that wanted to be in attendance.
So,
If more training needs to be done with somebody, please let us know
I didn't know
who
anybody,
that is.
you know, but that's out of my realm, but
Well-
fire chiefs, like, we still need to be trained on that system and how to contain smoke compliance, so it's not blowing all over.
Well,
That's 2 weeks ago, I told that.
and I didn't know that that was out there. I knew training had occurred on the smoke evac system, so we'll bring someone in to show them how to use it again.
Okay. Any further questions from the commissioners? If not, Jay, Roush, Jake, Jimmy, thank you for coming to clear it up. We'll send Jeremy back to 6 more months of journalist training.
Yeah, way to go, Jeremy. I'll be honest, it's been very informative to me.
To me, it
Again,
has.
all I wanted to understand was where we were at, where's the money at, where it's gone. I fully understand now where all the money's gone, and I expect another $126,000 to be gone very shortly, but that's what it's there for.
Well, Jeremy, if your article accomplished this, I'd appreciate that.
We're picking on you, Jeremy.
No, I'm patting my
I am
back.
glad we had it out.
Like I said, if this brought it to people's attention.
There you go.
At the time, you know, I was like,
If
why aren't you open, why
last
aren't you
week was
open?
bad, wait till you see this one.
And I'm like, I
Okay.
can't move in, and this is our two things right off the
We're
bat.
picking on Jeremy.
I
Good.
think you look at where we started, this, and of course, Commissioner Mears, Commissioner Duff are the only 2 commissioners here. When this started, what, 2012, 2013?
Yep.
And what we've done without a tax increase, and what we've done with Roush, and especially MBI has done with $17 million, I think this commission has done a pretty fair job of getting the most for
What?
bang for the buck. I'm gonna throw something at you quick.
Like I said, I'm not downplaying the job that they did, because we went through with the state to certify how many prisoners we can have. And I think Joe was there, and the building was built impeccable, where they were within a half inch on these buildings, and of course, you're off too much, you can't have as many bed space, so the building is built
See another $1 million.
There's nothing
very
quite
well.
like,
It's just a few issues that I thought would be handled other ways.
one of our sheriffs sitting in front of a TCI board, that's not very fun, I've enjoyed not going.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I look at it, if you can build a jail that size and stay within budget and not go over budget,
Absolutely.
you've been successful.
Yeah.
There's always gonna be hiccups in any construction projects and things that need to be fixed or repaired. It's just like building a house. Nothing is ever perfect right off the bat. And if you came in within budget or under budget, you had a successful project.
I will share one thing real quickly and leave, and this, I know you look here, and it was late March when the state fire marshal gave their approval, and James Jenkins gave the building occupancy. It's been 3 months, and that sounds like a long time. The time that happened on Monroe County, the time they moved in, prisoners in, it was almost 6 months between training and getting ready to move people in there and them feeling comfortable. And right now, there's still things being shook out. There was in Anderson County for the first year it opened up. Guess what? Sometimes the mechanical units just ain't built like they used to be. They got pinholes in the coils and so on, and it takes a while to figure it out, and people are hot, and you gotta fix it. So we'll be here, we and Rouse, through making sure it gets shook out and everything works right.
We can know there's gonna be some little other things come,
Yeah.
hopefully smaller things come up. That's just the way it is.
It is just the way it is. Hopefully it's all small.
Mr. Chairman, 5-minute break?
Okay, let me just say this to Jake. Our whole goal here is to make sure our guests have a pleasant and enjoyable experience and give us 10 on the survey.
Not you, the prisoner.
Yeah, that's right.
The prisoner. We don't care about
Give
you.
me a certificate for a steak on the way out.
No.
Take a 5-minute break. Steve, you're up when you come back. You can tell us about Santa.
Can we go on a break?
Right there.
On our own? Need one? Yeah, but you win, I win, he wins, Harold can go, we can.
Where you gotta be? Where you gotta be? You get on, hey, 30-day vacation.
Bump the thermostat. You got it on Buddy's more temperature. Yeah, I'm gonna wear my park. Jeremy, we picked on you tonight.
Right there.
We got our plans finalized for school, we got our set and ready to go.
They're out there.
What?
100% ready to go. I mean, they change daily, so.
Well, that's to get at your comment regarding, you just heard, these guys,
Can I go with you?
seem like people,
Props?
No.
Tracy, you're clear to depart. Pam's gonna take care of it.
I'm gonna take you up on it.
Go ahead. We can, but Van, we can cover her
If we
stuff.
have any left, we don't need to just add things in because there's money left. We can put that money back towards debt.
I've got it right here. I thought I left it in the truck, but I didn't.
That part was a little upsetting.
Are you talking to Tammy, any right there, Henry? Can I clarify?
Yeah.
Ask her if I need to lock the door. I'm sure I do.
No, I'm fine.
Go,
He said,
go.
Changed and this unit didn't work. I mean, that kind of stuff happens in construction. It's just when you say, we've got this amount of money left in contingency, what should we do with it? True. No, you should give it back to the taxpayers so they can go to pay off the debt sooner, not find someplace to spend it. That's my opinion.
Just give me what you want.
Maybe not forget a comment from you, I guess.
Sure.
Did this, I guess, your biggest takeaway from this, I guess?
Well, this is the first time we really got any first-hand information from the primaries involved in this, the builders and the architects and so forth. And like I said, it's like anything else, what you hear through the grapevine always gets bigger and larger and worse than it actually is. Like when I heard there was water coming through the floor, and I thought, well, you know. So this answered a lot of questions, and Susan is right in the building process. That's been an education. There's always things that we miss and have to be fixed.
Don't flip it up, turn it up there. Set that thermostat up a little bit, Larry.
I'm just
We're all gonna freeze
the
to death up
process
here
of
if we
where we're
don't.
at now, building where we leave so much of it.
Yeah, warm it up a little bit, couple of degrees.
Yeah.
We had to
It's cold.
Dan, I mean, I'm gonna go home with the heat on again.
You know, I wish, I was hoping, man, I was hoping we could, walk away with some money savings, but,
never mind.
if we break even, then I guess that's something to be said. I hope, I'm sure gonna be unhappy if we end up having to find money somewhere to finish this project.
I know I do.
No, it doesn't sound like that.
No, that's what I'm saying. I hope everything works out the way it is. I'm glad we had, like I said, I was being serious when I said that about your article. I mean,
I need to send you the law says
I don't want that,
He's on job.
but I'm glad you did it so we could answer this.
now, some of this makes sense now.
It says no
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. We took it off.
I was yet to go in it. I'd like to go. I've been to the jail now.
Didn't you go to the jail with us that day?
I was out of town that day. Thank you.
We're gonna have it. Don't worry, we're gonna have it.
What's that?
Oh, man.
What are we gonna have? Van, do we still wanna go into a long discussion on AFT?
It won't be long, but, yeah, I definitely want to address it.
Planning commission member, we
I'm
are.
gonna handle that.
All right.
I'll
If we decided to let
I'm
them
Van,
What?
in for this and that and the other, I thought, well, they own it. The big thing I don't like about it is all this going on and not.
Well, that's, we gotta find out why. You see the number, it's just out of control. It's ready to roll. They have to budget.
Got one question
I don't know when we will have.
On top of the thing that's hurt me ever since been
Why
on
we
commission,
tripled,
how
nearly
in the world
tripled
anybody
that
from
in
out of
8 years.
town could have negotiated such a horrendous contract.
Which one? There you go. Sorry, man.
okay,
I need to add one thing before we close tonight.
what's that? Come on over here.
Right? Right.
See if Commissioner Payne talked to me regarding the.
Jameson, you hadn't said nothing yet.
Say again.
Kelly was saying, clarify.
How's Susan's shoulder?
We were just in the dark on all of it, didn't know anything. This was a great group meeting right here, and we found out that we still have money left. I don't have to be left.
He'll have another whole page, in the next edition of the paper.
I love it when Dan gets, he gets called, named and everything, whether it's his idea or not.
Projects right on the verge of being done. Everything sounds like everybody's happy and good with it, so. Take on that, see it get done.
Make sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A lot of people asking about that
All right.
last article and,
Okay, we got everybody back?
Look,
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay.
let's see.
Who we missing,
Commissioners
Adam?
meet with their attorney.
Okay, we got Kelly.
Legislation. I don't know, Kelly. I don't know. I can't answer that.
Okay.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, everybody back?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Steve Fields, tell us why we had to hear from Richard Ake when the Santec was being sold to Republic.
I told you that.
It's because they are being sold. I provided a letter that the COO from Santec provided the solid waste board, kind of explaining the nature of the acquisition. I mean, the solid waste business is real dynamic, and this is just a piece of it.
Does it concern you at all?
I don't know if I certainly have an interest in how it's gonna go. You know, nobody knows how it's gonna go exactly. I mean, what they're talking now is that the same Santec personnel are gonna be there, operating out of Cleveland under the Santec name. They're gonna be a wholly owned subsidiary. And my guess is that as long as they hit whatever kind of numbers they're supposed to hit, in terms of making money for the parent company, Republic, they're probably gonna leave them alone. And if, for some reason they're not making their numbers, then they're probably gonna get more help. And what that means exactly, I don't have a clue.
Steve, I looked at their website and they're on the, I think their shares are going for like 85.34 today. They made about $10 billion, I believe, last year. They have 40 landfills. They're based in Arizona. They compensate their CEO, their COO, all of the board very appropriately. But the thing that we have to deal with transparency, and I appreciate what you do, thank you. But we get baptized continuously if we don't put things out in the public. And when the letter that we got, and it states that the Department of Justice was going to start basically a review of requests for the sale, and then I don't think that you were notified until the 20th. I don't understand how it works. Is that the federal government? Or how? If it is, then we're in trouble.
So what's your concern?
Why did the Department of Justice start investigating, and you, I believe, were not notified until the 20th of March about the sale of the property? Is that correct?
So the Department of Justice investigates large acquisitions like this just as a matter of investigating the businesses to ensure there's no monopoly that's going to be created. You know, it's just part of what the Department of Justice does.
I understand, but why weren't you or the solid waste, why did Santec not let you guys know so that it could be filtered down and that we could know what was going on?
I think one thing is that Santec had a discussion with you about it.
Right.
He did not have a discussion
with us,
with the board, no, with the solid waste board about it.
So but, you know, yes, that's true. However, the next meeting that we had, we laid out what was going on to the extent that we were aware of it.
but I believe, you know, the board was informed after it came out in an article.
Right.
And I felt very betrayed by my chairman, who should have at least let the board know that this is taking place, because we had been in the middle of negotiations with Santec and discussing things with Santec, and then come to find out that Santec is sharing this information with Republic, so they know. Well, we didn't know that.
Right.
So,
If we had been aware of the negotiations, could we not have started to renegotiate with Republic if we're gonna be seeing a takeover by them to buy Santec that could benefit the county better?
I don't know necessarily if you would get I mean, what we're talking about is a hypothetical. I mean, what we're dealing with is that we've had this ongoing negotiations with Santec. Larry and all of his efforts in terms of getting us to the point where we're at now, put us in a much more favorable position than where we were previously. You know, the fact that the, somebody, I guess, Republic approached Santec last year, beginning this process. I mean, it's just, I understand your frustration by not knowing, but.
It's not frustration, it's just that we get really criticized if we're not open to the public on things. And that's all I was asking, that we should have been upfront with us from the beginning up till now. And I think that Santec should have had respect for Loudon County Commission and the two cities to do that.
Well, you know, again, setting aside what happened, and just for a moment, I mean, from the time that I was notified of this potential acquisition, and it hasn't concluded yet, so it's still in the process at some level. It's probably gonna happen, but it hasn't happened yet. The next meeting that we had, the board was made aware. Now, what happened in between is COVID-19.
Right.
And, you know, everything got kind of turned on its head. You know, yes, I did share information with the board. I talked to our attorney, the day that I was notified from Santec, I got ahold of Kevin, either that day or the next day, shared it with him, and asked him, how do we, you know, what do we do with the board? Because Santec asked me to not reveal this information because it was being investigated by the Department of Justice and all the things that they're supposed to have in terms of keeping acquisitions like this under wraps, so that some folks don't take advantage of those things from a stock perspective. So to the extent that, yes, I didn't apprise Kelly or any of the board members, you know, I apologize. But again, I talked to our attorney and said, what should we do about the board? And he said, well, let's just kind of see what happens.
It's still the perception, said when this happened, the idea that you were the only one that knew. Santec knew. Like I said, Loudon County has been awfully good to Santec with the contract that they have made millions and millions and millions of dollars off our landfill. And like I said, I guess if you look at the contract that we have with them and everything, it wouldn't matter whether we liked it or not. There's not a thing that we can do to keep them from selling this.
Nope.
Not a thing we can do. And whoever buys it, you know, are they going to be, are they gonna have to honor the contract that Santec has?
Yes.
they have to honor our current contract right now. We're still in negotiations.
For the extension?
For the extension.
Would it, I would like to see your attorney or the solid waste attorney, it would be, I think, an opportunity to approach Republic and say, we want to renegotiate the contract. If you buy this from Santec, we don't like the contract that we have. It's not a fair contract with the county. Would you consider renegotiating the contract if you buy this landfill?
Well,
Their
They're not buying the landfill.
Huh?
They're not buying the landfill.
They're buying the
potentially buying
service.
Santec, which is buying
take
Well,
over the contract.
banana, tomato, whatever, that's what they're doing. And like I said, I've never been a big fan of the contract that we ended up with, and I know the people that, how we ended up with it. And like I said, there's not, besides gripe and complain, there's not a whole lot we do about it. But I thought this might be an opportunity if they're going to sell. You know, of course, I could see no reason why Republic would want to renegotiate, because Santec's got I mean, you know, I'm sure they think everybody over here doesn't have much sense that they'd negotiate a contract like we have with Santec, that they'd want to renegotiate it. That's just a sore spot. I just think it's just, if you could look up the word incompetent in the dictionary, it would be whoever negotiated this contract with Santec, because they've made, what, Pat, millions and millions, and anyhow, it gets short end of the stick. I just think it'd be an opportunity to renegotiate. I know that's not gonna happen, but the impropriety of you knowing and nobody else knowing kind of thinks, is there something else going on that we should know about? Since, you know, and I understand they probably didn't want a lot of people know that might undermine their ability to buy this company, but I still think you had an obligation to your board to at least let them know. You should have let them know that, hey, here's a heads up, don't know for sure, but this is what's going on, because they're the ones that's, as far as I know, it's run by a board, not run by one man.
Right.
The CEO of Republic makes $2.5 to $2.8 million a year. His total compensation with stock options and everything is roughly $28 million. They made, I believe, in 2019, $10 billion. They're in 40 states. 76% of their employees are actually very satisfied with Republican working with them. They're going to take care, and talking about, and I'm not saying this, but it makes you wonder, all this being secrecy, and someone by Santec talking about making sure somebody doesn't jump on stocks, you know, who knows? And that's not meant to be any accusation, but, you know, by them staying quiet and looking at salaries, and their board is very diversified, they have a very excellent background, there's no doubt. But just the not knowing, Steve, is the thing, and I've always had respect for you, but I think Santec should have had the priority, or should have had the respect for this commission and the city of Loudon and the city of Lenore City to come and sit down and talk to us in good faith. And I would be happy to share that with people from Santec or Republic, either one. Because we are sworn, when we take that oath, we're sworn to try to benefit or to work for the citizens of Loudon County.
Sure, I understand.
Here's mine, Steve. We are where we are. There's the options out there. I think if I talked to Kelly or saw it somewhere, read it somewhere, I think you all have voted to continue the contract negotiations with Santec, the contract extension negotiations.
Right.
As opposed to just stop everything, sit still, let this contract run out on Republic in 2027 or 20, whatever it is. So you got your couple of options right there. Continue to negotiate, leave the contract as is. I think in your email you sent us, there was quite a valuable aspect of renegotiating into the millions of dollars for the stakeholders, not the county, but for all the stakeholders.
Right.
I think that's your all's board to deal with. For me, my interest is the security of what happens at the landfill. We know what we've had with Santec, and some of us go far enough back, David, to know how we've come from the landfill to where it was 20 years ago to where we're at now. It's a whole different beast than it used to be. Republic may want to do things different and bring stuff from other places. I have no idea. But I want to make sure we have the assurances that whatever happens, our landfill is going to continue to operate like it is, not just massive amounts of waste coming from all over the United States, from 40 states, as David referred to, they were in. And then I saw in your letter also that in the new contract, we would get out of having to sign the bond, essentially take responsibility for closure. If I'm not mistaken, that's part of the new contract negotiation.
That was in the letter.
So that's as big as anything comes right there. Everybody else is right. We've taken a bath on this landfill. I don't care. Santec's in business. We own the property. We've got however many hundred tons of garbage every day got to go somewhere.
800,
So who
what is it,
gets the
800?
money doesn't matter. I just want to make sure whatever the longevity of this is, that the stakeholders are still secure in our place. Secondly, as we talked now 6 years ago, 5 years ago or something, do we just want to sell the landfill? Is that not something we'd ever consider? Just get us out of the landfill business.
Well, now, I had this question that I did want to pose, is there one of our entities that at some point, or our stakeholders, I should say, one of our stakeholders at some point that wants to, at the end of this contract, take over the landfill?
If I'm on county commission, I would not vote for this stakeholder to take it. I wish we were completely out of the business altogether.
I think that is an issue that needs to be addressed. We had a meeting the other night. We had stopped negotiations at one point. And at our meeting the other night, there was a vote to begin negotiations again with Santec. And I voted against it, and the reason I voted against it was I felt like that I needed to come here to let my stakeholder know what was taking place.
What does the extension take us to? What's currently, if we do nothing, the contract expires when?
2027.
Okay, if this extension were to pass and it was adopted, what's that run it out to?
It would depend on the rate of garbage coming in, but somewhere between 2035 and drop dead date of 2038.
What's their profit off that landfill annually?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Oh, Pat can tell you.
I did a calculation in 2016, and they were up to about 27,064,650.
Gross?
Yes.
Gross, and of that, those were the gross tipping fees, and of that, the three entities, the solid waste, received 2.8. So roughly, it's a 90-10 split. And, that was in 2016.
Pretty favorable for
It's
Santec.
grossing about $3 million a year, and of that, we are getting 10%. That's highway robbery. We own the landfill.
But we have no liability.
Yeah, we do.
Right now,
Right now, you do.
Well, as long as,
Until we're under the new contract.
as
then we
long
won't
as
have
Buddy's
liability,
having to
right?
sign that bond.
Let me address the information I provided you.
Why don't we just sell it?
That's what I'm for.
And I'll address the sale question here afterwards, but what I wanted to provide the board was some information to go by in terms of in 2027, if we did nothing, what does it look like liability-wise?
9 million.
And that was the $9 million roughly. That's probably a high number, but it's a defensible number in terms of what's it gonna cost to close 41 acres of the landfill if you wanted to get out of the landfill business. Maybe we don't wanna get out of the landfill business. But I wanted to provide some information about what's the potential liability if we did nothing, and what does it look like on the revenue side in terms of how much money will we have in the bank to accommodate that liability, and we're certainly underwater, which is why we're try to do the contract renegotiation. That's, what I wanted to provide you with some information about if we did nothing, what does that look like? And we're clearly underwater, and so that's one of the reasons why we're doing these negotiations with Santec. Now granted, Republic decided they wanted to buy Santec. At some level, it certainly changed the equation, but it doesn't change our existing contract. And according to Santec, in terms of moving forward on the negotiation that we've been involved in, it doesn't change that.
we're still trying to get that across the finish line, where they would assume responsibility for closing the landfill on their dime, which is about a $9 million.
That's huge.
So, and then also providing the bond, so that it relieves the mayor from having to sign the letter every year, proposing future tax revenue should TDEC have to come in to close the landfill. So in terms of this new deal, it's much more favorable to the board, but also the stakeholders, in terms of taking care of that closure liability completely, and also dealing with the bonding issue.
Do you know if, in the negotiations with Santec and Republic, if Republic goes through and the contract is extended, do we have or in the contract, we have a guarantee that they're not just gonna simply bring in a tremendous amount of out-of-county waste and put in the landfill and close it up early?
The contract has, the current contract, and this gets carried forward on the current negotiations we're going through, has an 800 ton per day cap. And there's also a cap where they can't bring in garbage further than 150 miles.
So they could bring it in.
It makes me wonder if he's telling me the truth right now.
Now, the one thing to be mindful about is that the picture that Richard created in terms of, all the, these train loads full of garbage coming out of Atlanta to Matlock Bend, he forgot he wasn't aware that there's 3 or 4 facilities that Santec owns between Atlanta and Matlock Bend. Why would they want to bring garbage here if they have options that are closer to them? Clearly, the solid waste business is really sensitive price-wise. And, transportation costs are a big part of that. Clearly, a large company like Republic likes to operate large landfills, and they like to bring in lots of garbage. My concern is that they're clearly gonna try to bring in as much garbage as they can, but again, there's a cap that they have on the landfill.
Well, if they operate like Santec, which is, my understanding on more than one occasion, more than one area has been in breach of contract on different times during our contract with them, and you say they're not supposed to do this. We're actually, this is one of the things in government, local government, that just really flabbergasts me, that we have absolutely, I know you say our board does, but really, we don't have any control over this. Well, there's not a thing that we control about this, like I said, and I can see why Republic would probably start salivating at buying our landfill when they see the contract that Santec has.
Well, in terms of, can I address the purchase issue?
And they say, well, they're not supposed to do this. I don't believe that. I don't believe that they'd honor everything that they should. And it bothers me that now we're going to be a national conglomerate landfill with even less say over what is brought into it here. It really bothers me that this is going to happen, but it's like that lightning strike. Ain't a whole lot I could do about it to keep it from happening.
Right. In terms of purchasing the landfill, at some level, I think that Republic would love to own that Matlock Bend landfill, because from a strategic standpoint, we're in a very favorable place for the market that they want to develop. Now, if you sell the landfill, you sell whatever kind of control you might have, but I can't see.
We don't have any.
Well, we do have some control.
They
We have
can't
a
bring
ceiling,
more than
we have a
800
ceiling
tons
for
in.
what they can bring in terms of tons per day.
But
We
what
have a
control?
radius that they can bring in.
How does anybody actually go out on a regular basis and check landfill, like the TDEC, or anybody that checks landfills to see that you're not, running a Homer Simpson thing, dumping radiation waste and everything? And do we have any assurances when somebody buys that they're not going to put things in the landfill that shouldn't be there? is that checked on a regular basis? Or do we just take their word for
I mean,
it like we have?
TDEC comes out to landfill at least once a month. And they're looking at the records, they're looking at how the waste is being handled.
Do they actually, is there, and it may be something that's not possible, but is there any actual way that they can say, hey, you all put something in this landfill that shouldn't be here?
Kinda like getting a call about the coal fly ash out of Rome County.
Yeah.
At my office for 2 days straight, and I had known nothing about it.
Are we taking that stuff?
I don't know if we still are or not.
No,
No, we are
it
not.
wasn't coal ash, it was construction debris that had asbestos in it.
We're way off the mark
here. If we could,
Well, I think this one's much like the jail, where we're learning, we're finding out. I always fall back on this right here. We have a solid waste commission, not a committee, not a board, they're a commission. They've been charged with certain authorities outside our scope, to be honest. We have our representatives sitting here, you got Mr. Jameson in the back, Loudon has representatives, Little City has representatives.
Who's here?
We're,
Miss Vivian.
okay, and so, I can recognize people with our masks on. But, so we kinda have to take, our solid waste commission
To do the
to
right
do
thing?
their job. And they're there, they're at those horrendous meetings. I don't know how many of you been, but I wouldn't attend one for it. They're the office meetings I've ever seen in my life. So, at this point, I've raised my concerns. I wanna know about the security and the long term of our landfill, if we're gonna keep it. And I want this liability issue with this bond thing, which is it's crazy that we have to do that. Own the landfill, let somebody else contract it, but then we on the bottom end are totally responsible if something blows up. That's nuts on our side right there. Fortunately,
You're never out of the landfill.
well, don't we know that?
We found that
Don't we
out.
know that?
Learned that one hard
Is,
way.
what does the attorney for your all's
Kevin Stevens.
board, is he? What does he, what's his feeling on letting the contract expire? Does he think it's a good idea?
I don't,
No, I don't think I think that he's, well, Kelly, you,
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say that I think he, like the board, would like to complete the negotiations that we're in, because it puts the board and the stakeholders in a much more favorable position in terms of having Sandtech close the landfill and be responsible for that bonding.
How does the board feel about all this?
They voted to continue negotiations, apparently.
I was the only one that voted against it at that point.
But you said it was
But
because
there
you
was
wanted to
all-
come here.
It was,
You
I
wanted
wanted to
to
come
get us
here.
informed.
And on the 150-mile radius, we did vote to amend the current contract to ask Sandtech to go to 75-mile radius. Okay, now they can come back and say yes or no. If they say no, then
That was a two-part reason for that motion to come up for the board, and that was to see their willingness, because we've done that not in the present day negotiations, we've done that to do an addendum to the present day contract,
to the
to
present.
see what their willingness was to bring back. They say, oh, no, we can't bring trash up from Atlanta, it's too far, it's not economical, but they can according to our contract, present day. If they limit it to 75, that shows a good faith effort to go back to negotiations on the board.
And supposedly, whatever we have in place before Republic actually takes over, Republic will have to honor.
Do you think Republic would have any input with the Sandtech officials as to what they would like to have in place?
Oh, they're already having that input. I mean, that was part of what I was upset about, was because they had this discussion and they had been discussing this, and then Steve finds out that they're in negotiations to sell. So they've known all of us about
And
what
we
we're doing, but we didn't know what they were
And it
doing.
goes back to the question, can we trust them to honor their contract?
Yeah.
No.
Well, and here's the
Doesn't
one thing
sound like
too, that I wanna check on too is before, the county's under purchasing the county's under purchasing regulations too, and purchasing clauses. So purchasing puts a clause in contracts that a contract cannot be sold without written permission from the county. So I don't know, of course, they're not selling, we're not selling, but they're taking our contract, so I don't know.
To that point, that our contract per our, not necessarily through the contract, through the county purchasing regs, but in our current contract language, it says that Santec cannot assign our contract to another vendor or another entity.
Unless it's written permission?
Right, however, if the whole company gets bought, they buy the company with the existing contracts, and that's the way it is.
I disagree with that.
I'd be curious about that one.
I would too, I think
You can't, I mean, that's pretty,
that
yeah.
Bob Bowman needs to take a look at that. If that language is in that contract, that contract cannot be sold without
reassigned.
written permission, I think it gives you an out if you choose to take it.
But
And then
again,
what's the out?
they're not selling the contract to operate Matlock Bend. There's a stock purchase by Republic from the owner of Santec to purchase his shares of stock. Now.
So he's gotta take controlling
He's
interest.
gonna take controlling interest.
You know, and again,
It'll still be called Santec.
That's, I still like to see what Bob Bowman said about it.
Not necessarily it'll be called Santec either, because they said they'd be easing in some of their equipment, their trucks and their things, so yeah, it'll eventually say.
They're selling the assets.
Okay, that's why
But
it sounds like it's an
that
asset. purchase.
contract, we keep saying contract. There's no way that this county commission is involved in this contract, is there? It has never come to us for approval.
Well, we don't have the new negotiated contract, is not complete to
We
bring.
didn't have the old.
Well, that was long before me. The old one, as it stands right now, is what we're operating on.
Well, it may be, but I was here whenever the county commission, David, you were too, voted on the contract. In my first year here, I voted on the contract that big.
And didn't know what was in it.
It was first meeting.
Yeah.
The first meeting, here they ran, and said you got to vote on it tonight. And since that time, there has not been a contract before this board. So how are we involved? You keep saying contract, both of you do, contract. We haven't okayed a contract.
That's true, but there is an operating agreement between Santec and the Solid Waste Board. The Solid Waste Board, we own the landfill through the interlocal agreement.
Three people.
And you vote for 1/3 of that interlocal agreement.
How many people are on the board?
7,
7.
5 represent the county, 1 from Lenore City, 1 from City Loudon.
I have one more question. When you were involved and they told you about the negotiation that was taking place, you were sworn to secrecy not to tell that, weren't you?
Right.
What's it?
I think that is that standard protocol when you have a sale of a large corporation, not to divulge that sale.
I can understand in
No, it-
stocks, but speculations, I don't agree.
Yep,
Well, you know,
and then
again,
it came out in
Again,
an article.
when I received the call from Santec, I contacted our attorney, said, Kevin, this is what's going on. How do we notify the board? You know, what do we need to do? He said, well, let's just wait and see what happened, and COVID ramped up, and then the next board meeting that we had, the information was out there and we began discussing it.
Well, it's a shame we had to hear it from Richard Akelin, that's my feelings.
Yeah, I understand. And again, I apologize to Kelly and the other board members, but, when I provided some, you folks are blessed and cursed with somebody who works in Oak Ridge that is told, you don't talk about things. And when somebody tells me you don't talk about it, I don't talk about it.
Well, see, the reason, I mean,
And I understand your frustration.
it would be different if it was a legal basis for that to occur. But there was nothing legal about this. All those companies wanted you to do was to be quiet so as not to impact the sale on how much money one was gonna have to spend and how much money the other one was going to make. But for us, it didn't make a hill's beans worth of difference because we're bound by that contract, like the guy with the albatross around his neck. We're bound by that, so there was no reason you couldn't have told the board because, unless you just felt honor bound, my response would have been, I'm sorry, we can't operate this way. The board at least needs to know that this is gonna happen. Because like I said, it's not legal. There's no federal law that says that you're bound not to say anything about it. And if it had sold or not would have not made any difference to Loudon County because, what we get is in the contract. So it just, that's all. I think we've beat this to death enough unless anybody else got something to say.
One last question, what's the chances of getting the contract amended that you're working on before the sale so they'll have to live with it?
Well, I think in terms of where we're at, I think we're really close, but you've been hearing that out of me for a long time. But I think we are really close. And I don't know when the deal's gonna close exactly with Republic. It's
Actually,
probably gonna
from
be
the guy from
November.
Republic said what, Larry? It might be next year.
In the third quarter, possibly fourth quarter, but by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So you got
End of this year?
5 more months.
Well, it could close by the end of third quarter, possibly
Okay.
in the early fourth quarter, but most likely to the end of the fourth quarter before the year runs out.
Any further discussions for
Just
Steve?
a FYI, some of the concerns, I'll speak for myself. I can't say I have a lot of confidence in your board attorney. Just as that's got nothing to do with this, just as a point to be able to tell you that at this point in time, we've not had a lot of real good interaction with your board attorney.
You can throw TRDA in that umbrella now.
Well, huh?
You can throw TRDA under that.
He their
umbrella
attorney now?
No, but he's the one that attacked us in Nashville.
Oh, okay. So anyhow, just as a footnote.
I appreciate your feedback on that. Any other questions I can?
Any other questions?
I'm done.
Thank you,
We just
Steve.
killed the messenger.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your efforts, and I wish that I could be bringing better news, but again, if we are successful with these negotiations, it dramatically changes our financial picture, which is why we're still
Okay.
on it.
Susan, tell us about this multi-year voice phone service contract for the schools.
And for Susan speak, for me personally, I'm sure the commissioner, I want to thank you for you've been tasked with 2 Herculean jobs. One with the courthouse fire and the other one with this jail.
And thank you.
And you have been tasked, just one of those alone would have been tough to do, but we appreciate everything. Hopefully, maybe we can do more than words one of these days, but I want to let you know, we really appreciate the hard
And
work.
said we're giving everybody 3% next year.
Yeah.
I remember that comment.
And we're gonna do bonuses at Christmas time.
Yeah, that's good.
We heard stuff tonight that's really good.
A chicken in every
I'm not
pot.
at liberty to tell.
3%.
We
might be all right.
Getting an additional,
Why you don't tell it out loud?
Okay, so
$300,000.
additional $300,000.
Yep.
On top of, we're going from 911,000.
1.1.
Do the schools get more as well on top of that?
They're
Got
hoping
money
to.
coming.
state increase.
All that's up today.
We're not giving any fingers.
Okay, Susan, tell us about the multi-year contract.
It's a renewal contract, it's a contract they already.
Hold on, guys.
It's a contract they're already involved in, it provides the voice, systems for all of the schools. So it's just a renewal, there's no cost increase, it's a 3-year renewal contract,
Put it on August 3rd for a vote?
yes.
Got it.
And you stayed for all that, and we could have moved
Jeez.
Susan
We
to
could
the
have done that
front.
too.
Well, we needed her there
Yeah.
early on. We
I
needed her.
enjoy listening to all of the conversation, it keeps me informed.
That is not
as to
possible.
things.
You can watch it on YouTube from your account.
Hey, she's second district, she could fill in the vacant seat over there possibly.
If I retire, I might just do that.
There you go.
Van, take us through your items on the ATF and increased costs and autopsies. Buddy has something, Van's gonna take us through Tracy's stuff, we'll do Buddy and then Kelly. Go ahead,
So I'm next.
you're next.
Okay, I'll hit, Miss Barker's had a good long evening with us here.
She's probably frozen by now like the rest of us.
All right, back during our budget conversations, we had a lot of talks about a lot of different things. And like Ms. Barker said, our school system's probably just, in fact, we already know they're already in a bigger jam than any of us are. They lost $200-something thousand of their BEP, I understand, Mr. Tinker,
Yes,
that we
more
thought
than
we were gonna get. So, when we looked at this and talked about this back in the budget process, we really, I don't know, we batted around back and forth, but it never really got any real traction. But nobody ever put together the numbers or anything like that, so.
Well, they said to identify revenue sources.
That's right.
That's right.
So right here it is. This is for the last number of years, and this comes from documents that I got from Chip Miller. I laid one of these at everybody's desk. You had one.
Yeah, I got it.
AFT on the top corner. In fact, I laid two. The other one's autopsies, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, boy.
Woo,
Other
we'll
hot
put them together. Huh?
Okay, I started putting them on the same page, and I thought, I don't know how to do that. But anyhow, here's what the AFT has done since 9/10. I just kind of went a 10-year span right there. And my statement in the paper that Ms. Barker referenced was that as it has grown, if the change happens now, they'll still be getting more money than they used to get. I may not have communicated that clearly, but as you can see the numbers right there. What our discussion in budget had been was to talk about, right now, Little City gets 15%, we get 85. The consideration was to change it from 85-15 to 90-10. You can do the math, you all got calculators and all that and can see what that does.
Well, what it does is it drops Lenore City this year, or 2019-20 is 169,350. We'll drop down to 112,900 is what we're
There you go, for one random test pattern there. What we talked about taking the money for is not for us. In fact, our school system can only use this money for two things, and that's capital projects and debt service. Absolutely cannot use it for another thing. I think Lenore City just spends theirs in their general operating, if I'm not, but it doesn't matter. Y'all do what you need to do, it's fine and dandy.
Well, we do what's right.
Yeah, whatever you do with it's fine. We just make the contribution. When it was passed, the county just decided to voluntarily do this. It's not required to give anything. But for whatever reason, they picked the 15%. Well, you can see how it's grown over time. And the question is, do we want to put more of it back to the Loudon County Board of Education or continue to give more of it to Lenore City? If we were to keep it, the extra 5%, that 5% would be designated, earmarked, and specifically going to education capital projects. Right now, and if I'm not mistaken, we just recently approved $800,000 or give or take expenditure from our capital project, from the Board of Education capital projects.
And they have a 5-year plan put
Right.
together.
Right, and so there's no revenue going in there. There's zero revenue going into that capital projects right now.
And in 5 years, there will be very little left.
That's correct. That's exactly right. So what I'm looking for, if this body wants to do it, is to have a revenue source going back in to refill, if you might call it, the Board of Education capital projects.
What happened to the revenue source that was going into it?
It was transferred out to pay debt? No.
Yes.
Educational debt, yes,
Yeah,
it
debt
was.
service, debt
Yes,
service.
it was. cause we asked Tracy.
That's
So that
right.
we could afford to pay for the jail?
Do what?
So we could afford to pay for the jail?
I believe that's possibly correct.
That is exactly correct, yeah.
I'm not sure what your point is, but what I'm
Well,
looking
here's
for.
my point, let me, if I may,
What I'm looking for, what I was hoping we could do is to get some revenue back to the Loudon County Board of Education.
Nah. That's very kind of you, sir, if I may.
I'm always about the
take
children,
the
everybody
floor.
knows.
Yes, everybody knows you're always trying to help out this.
That's right.
This is another, there was a revenue stream going into that. It was taken away and given to go in order to pay for the jail. Now, you want to rob another person to try to put a little back in there, so in 2 more months, you can vote to take that money out of AFT and have it go to debt service as well, so that you can pay for something else. I would be opposed to this on many different levels.
The 5% equals $56,450.
Correct.
Based on my Little City education.
But this is not a fixed amount. This revenue can change with construction.
It goes up or down, yeah.
That's right. It's not a fixed dollar amount by any means.
Barker, do y'all use it exclusively for capital projects?
That's what I wanted to ask too.
Well, I'm gonna ask Jeannie Maury, my business manager, to answer that, because I want to make sure you get the best answer.
Well, and, I have to say that our school system has probably in excess every year in capital projects more than what we're collecting from AFT. We, we have a long history of doing improvements to our school system, repairs, we've got a big roof project going on right now, so.
But the revenue coming from the county, that AFT, it goes directly into capital projects only. Is that safe to assume?
We don't have it in a capital projects fund, but it is used in our general purpose for capital projects.
So it goes into general purpose.
Yes.
And
But it is
I'm not
used.
for it, but my concern is if we can only use it for debt, retirement, or capital projects.
Why do they get to put
I
it
can
in the
answer
general
that,
fund?
because it's not their AFT, it's a contribution from us to them.
But
They
we
can
get it out of
use,
AFT though.
don't matter. They can use it. I asked to talk to Tracy about this earlier today. It's just money we hand
That's
over to
actually
them.
county money. All of it is county money. The
But if
county
we're
just
required-
decided
but why
to
could-
give
What if we
somebody.
donate it to 141 and give teachers raises with it, for that matter?
Because the state law says it can only be used for capital projects and debt service.
But yeah.
What we give them is just.
But
it's
that's
just a-
not capital project or debt service.
I know that, but what we give them is a contribution. It's not necessarily AFT money. Bill's with me.
Yeah,
We're just handing them money. They're not obligated by the same law we are. We didn't have to give them any of it.
How come they're not obligated by the same law? Because everyone in the county collects.
It's not
Are
their
we
AFT.
reimbursing- Are we reimbursing county school general out of that AFT money, or are we just giving it out of the county general, and AFT money staying where it's at?
You talking about them? It's just a check written. It
But is
doesn't
it from
matter
our
where it comes from.
AFT? It does matter in my mind, if that money has.
There is no AFT. Every penny of our AFT is going to debt service right now, every penny of it.
Yeah, I understand.
No, 85% of it.
Nope. Don't think so.
So, okay.
They can do with it,
I'm just-
they can do with it whatever they want to.
Yeah, we're not doing that. We're just trying to figure
Yeah.
out why.
Let me,
We don't know what we're doing.
David and Harold, when they set this up, David, the
I was
state,
here.
and did the state, it was a county thing, the money was to come into the county.
100%.
It-
County Powers Act is what it's under.
It came into the county,
That's correct.
and so.
Somebody agreed to give them part of
So,
it.
This body
when-
said.
When we started that, so in essence,
commission
all the
agreed
taxes
to it.
from AFT belong to Loudon County.
That's correct.
And must be used for.
But when they did this, the county commission then decided to share with Lenore City
That's correct.
and give them,
15%.
15%. And I can see where there's some questions, should the same discretion
Apply.
to the city as it does to the
See, I
county?
thought it was coming
But-
directly out of AFT,
But-
straight to their.
But I'm not banned, if it come, it's our money, it come to us, and we just decide, we're gonna write Lenore City a check for $57,000 out of AFT, it's just, But again, if it's just for capital projects and debt service, I could see where somebody might say, well, if we give that to Lenore City, that has to be the same. The state says that's only two things that can be spent on.
But the state didn't say we had to give it to them.
But wasn't
It's
the
ours,
AFT?
we're just donating it. Donating it
I
to them.
know, I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Wasn't the AFT put on the ballot?
No, county
It
commission
wasn't?
passed it in November of 2016.
County Commission passed, Dr. Barker, I'm going back, and
Okay.
Mr. Duff and I still have a lot of scars from 307 emails, 307 individuals here that night. And when we passed it and when it was done, we had thought that money was going to be utilized in Lenore City as it was in the county.
Yes. And we don't have any problem with that.
And the thing is that, you know, during that time period, we didn't see a representative from the school system down here because we took a tremendous amount of heat for about a month. I think we spoke to every realtor in East Tennessee.
I believe it was a little more than a month that we took the heat.
Well, and there's some
Heat
question,
is still going on, Commissioner.
Yes. There is still some question, can Lenore City have their own? I don't know that answer, that's not my interest.
Lenore City cannot.
Because we did.
I'm not sure, but I have.
We did the County
read that
Powers
in
Act.
Legal opinion, so.
We did the County Powers Act, which gave us this one right here. Then there is also an impact fee. Maybe one of the last taxes Lenore City hasn't passed. I mean, they've not missed many, but I don't think they've passed that one yet. But again, whether or not they have to use it the way we do, I don't know the answer to that. According to Tracy, and in my opinion also, they're not obligated by ours because it's a county law. We adopted it under the state regulations, and it's all our money. Then if we just decide to dole out 15% of it to some other entity, they're under no obligation, in my opinion. Now, I could be wrong, and they can probably give an opinion on it.
You're probably right.
But if we were told we
Commission,
would,
if I could say, we do educate 34.5% of the students, and that includes county students. So, you know, we are part of the county as well, just say.
Well, no question or debate about that. We educate city students too, so we all swap back and forth.
Well,
But
and my whole thing was, I thought
like to speak.
Chip collected $1,000 of AFT, then $150 of it automatically went. I was, my revenue streams were originated from is what.
Well, you know, we missed out on some money of that development in Lenore City, the Cove.
yeah, buddy, they never
I
paid
don't
any
know
of their
how
AFT.
it got through, but we never collected a single dollar.
well, how do we
on
not, how do
AFT.
we not collect that?
You have to ask Chip. He said he would never inform us. I don't know why we can't.
I
do
mean,
that.
it's not your, I just,
Guys, here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm at with this. All we were doing is looking for revenue streams. I heard, Mr. Tinker make his statement. I understand Mr. Tinker represents that area, and I've talked to Tony Akins. I'll be honest with you. I called Tony on the front end, and I said, Jeremy Nash is working on a story. Don't get surprised when you see it. And he said, now, you know I'll have to oppose it. I said, I would expect no less of you. And I appreciate Lenore City and what they're doing and all their work. But I think we have an obligation to think about Loudon County also. So I'm gonna ask for this to be on the agenda on August the 3rd, and everybody can vote however they want to on it. But I think we ought to shift the 5%. Lenore City will continue to gain the 10%, use it however they wanna use it. We'll take our 5% and replenish our Board of Education Capital Projects Fund.
I wish that it won't do that.
There is a law that talks about.
Commissioner
maintenance
Duff
of
has the
efforts.
last
Here, hang on,
I'd
hang on.
like to look into that as well. There is a law that talks about maintenance of effort,
MOE.
and yes,
I don't think this one falls under it.
It does.
it does.
But I would also, as I brought out at the meetings, and I'd like to be able to sit down with you and discuss before any actions are taken by either entity.
I would appreciate that.
Well, talk to them between now and August 3rd, David. Because I want it on the agenda.
Yeah,
I'm
she
sorry.
doesn't have anything going on between now and August
No.
3rd. No,
well,
I
you know,
wouldn't
I
want to be
appreciate
here.
the information that Van's given to, and it's, you know, it's something to think about, but
No way you can speak here.
it,
You want the last word?
if it was a large amount of money, I would, you know, would think about it, but I'm not sure this amount is worth the bad PR.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Duff for the last word.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'm against what County Commissioner Shaver has just presented to you. I will vote against it, and I would request of the chairman not to include this on the next county commission meeting. For this reason, 2 years ago, I guess it was, this commission took 3 cents away from Lower City schools. 1 year ago, they took an additional 3 cents, pennies, 6 pennies from their, from what they were receiving from the county school money. The money, was taken away.
What month? What do we take away from Lower City schools?
6 cents. 6 cents.
We did.
Took it away. You told me that you did. At this meeting,
We've never taken anything from Lower City schools, Commissioner. I promise.
6 cents. 2 years in a row, 3 cents.
We increased the Lower City tax rate.
He's recognized me to speak.
Have at it.
You've spoken all night, and
Have at it.
I believe that someone else needs to speak.
Speak away.
On this. And now you come with this. So what you did was take 6 cents of their tax money away from them. Now, here you are tonight and in the News Herald, where you get a lot of publicity. I think it's bad publicity, but
Leave me alone, Jeremy.
But now you're wanting to take this away from them. That's money. So you can call it whatever you want to. On the previous take that has already been done. But this is that same thing over again. Take money away from Lenore City, put it in this budget down here. Now, you can't deny that that is actually what happened. You can sugarcoat it any way you want to, but you can't deny that that is what is being attempted here. Now, if this was Loudon County, that we were doing this, taking their 6 pennies and now this AFT money away, I would sit here and object to that. I wouldn't want you to do that to Loudon, like what is happening to Lenore City.
Well, they did multiple times. With your objection and mine, but it's happening every year.
So that's my speech. You can say whatever you want to, but that is the bottom line.
Now, correction. We've never taken anything from Lenore City schools. No pennies, no 6 pennies, no 10 pennies. None. Tinker could help you to get where you're going with that. You're talking about a tax increase for Lenore City's general. We've never taken anything from the schools. We don't have the ability to take anything from the schools.
I think that is a misrepresentation of the truth.
Superintendent Barker, you want to answer that?
Well, Mr. Duff knows, and he is speaking correctly. And indeed, our funding body is through the Lenore City. And so when you take it away from Lenore City, that affects the Lenore City schools.
We haven't taken anything from Lenore City.
Yeah, but what
You
she's
took
saying
monies
is
out of
Lenore
the
City
debt-
did.
Out of the school funds, which changed the tax rate in Lenore City. For Lenore City to have to pay more in order to make maintenance of effort, as we talked about. So, it is the same.
I can't let this go. This is just silly talk. Nobody's ever taken anything from Lenore City, school or city. When the tax rate goes up, that's not taking money away from them. And Lenore City, as far as that goes, is still 20 cents less than the county general people that are paying a property tax rate. So this 6 cents is a myth. Jeremy, be careful with this. Ain't nobody ever took 6 cents from anybody. We don't even have the ability to take 6 cents. If anything, as Lenore City's enrollment goes up, you all get a larger piece of the BEP. So we haven't taken, you all have as increased, not at anything we've done or you've done, but you all have gone in the last 5 or 6 years from about 30% to a 35%. But this idea that we ever took a penny from Lenore City, we've not taken a penny from Lenore City or Lenore City schools. If their tax rate goes up, that doesn't take money from the schools unless your city government did something. We didn't do it.
The decisions
Well, that's
you
where
make
the money went.
eventually affect us. Yes.
How?
Mr. Duff, you wanna?
Hey, that's the way they do.
I'm not gonna
They
just,
pass a
how?
budget, they pass a budget up there just like you do here.
Okay.
And that money there goes into education.
All right.
It's all of it is the
So
same.
how did we take 6 cents from anybody?
By raising the 3 cents at one
Okay.
year.
How did that take
3
money away from
more
somebody?
The next. If you-
Hang on, Henry. I can't let this one go. I wanna know how we took 6 pennies from Lenore City schools.
I can't let it go either, but I've stated my case and I stand by.
That's fine. I just wanna know how we took
I
6
told
cents
you
from Lenore
how
City.
you did it.
How?
And the
Henry, can you
same
get
way,
this,
same thing is
Can
happening
you break
right
this up,
here
please?
I will.
with that, right there. They're the same thing.
If this were to
as
pass, this would be the
happening
first time in history we ever reduced funding of any sort from Lenore City.
Okay,
That's
here
be
we
the third time you did
It's
it.
never happened.
Third,
Ever.
2 times.
Okay, here's the deal. Do you still wanna leave it on the
Yes, I
third?
wanna
or
leave it,
withdraw
yes.
it?
Check the records.
Yes.
Check the records.
Is anybody here, can anybody else explain to me how we took 6 cents from
Henry,
Lenore City?
can we?
No, I need this cleared up. Jeremy's sitting there with his ink pen going, he's ready to go home, and there's an accusation being made that this body took 6 cents from Lenore City. How did that happen?
And that's the same way you're trying to
How
do
did it happen?
What we did caused the Lenore City government to raise taxes to replace
To
that.
replace it.
Their tax rate went up, they didn't raise anything.
Oh.
Their tax rate stayed exactly the same.
Okay.
8:30.
He's good at twisting it around.
I'm waiting on one person to tell me how we took money from Lenore City
I
schools.
told you 5 times. So
$5. Find me $5 we took from Lenore City schools. Anybody in this room?
Okay, here's the deal. If it stays on, we all have a vote.
That's
It
right.
takes 6 votes to pass, so
And if it doesn't, it's no big deal. We're looking for revenue streams. Here's a revenue stream.
Well, and you want to take it away from another.
And give it to the Loudon County
and
schools.
Give it to.
Loudon County schools.
And how many percent, what percentage of Lenore City High School is county students?
75.
Is
Right?
that right? That's about
County
right.
schools.
75%.
Yeah,
These are county students.
I'm quite aware.
Okay.
Henry,
What's wrong with us
Fifth district
helping
students,
with
too.
the county, pay the county students?
We're helping
Nobody pays
enormously.
attention to that.
I'm still waiting on 6 cents. I've heard nothing yet.
Let's talk about autopsies.
here's the deal.
Autopsies.
You're an elected official. You wanna put it on April 3rd, or August 3rd.
Please put it on.
It'll go for a vote. If it gets 6 votes, it happens. If it doesn't, it fails.
And I'd even be safe to say this, since we didn't do it in the budget process, if it does, it wouldn't go into effect till next budget process. I'm comfortable with that, because I know they've already got their budget set.
Yeah, you can't do it to them.
So I don't have a bit of problem if it's delayed a year, or even moved to the next budget cycle. But anyhow, all right, everybody done with that one?
We're done. Tell me about autopsy.
All right, you got your little sheet of paper on autopsies. This one is out of control.
Looks like a dead issue to me.
You been waiting all night for that to happen.
They're dying to get on it.
If you look at those dates, now, you can't tell me more people are dying in Loudon County that require autopsy. I know there's some. Drug overdoses is the big one. Everybody dies of drug overdose goes through autopsies. Forensics center's what comes to. They're $1,850 a pop. But you can do the math right there and see as easy as I can. I have no answers for this other than I'm gonna look at the mayor, which doesn't give me a great lot of confidence. Somebody needs to talk to Dr. Patel and find out why we have this just enormous increase.
Most of your autopsies are ordered through the DA or the law enforcement anyway.
No, sir, they're going through Patel.
All I ask
This
is
is
the word I
why,
got.
this is why somebody needs to find out what's going on.
Generally, if they die without a history, heart problem, or
And alone.
hospice,
Yeah.
they get down to the forensic.
Mayor has,
Let him look into
We
that.
thought with Travis Estes being appointed, that might reduce and stop
Yeah.
some of it, it's not. It's-
how about the COVID impact? Are those deaths resulting in autopsies? Are they having to be I know that's probably something you
We've
do.
only had 3.
There's only 3.
Yeah, according to the state, we've only had the 3 that were actually COVID related.
Let me point out that
I
the
don't know.
1920 is not a fixed number. Last month, we amended that budget and added $10,000 to it.
Yeah.
So I talked to Tracy, yesterday, I guess it was, and she said she doesn't know how many more bills there are outstanding that have not come in yet, that may still yet come in this month from the last fiscal year. So 110 may not be correct on the 1920, but that's what we budgeted for it. Again, what I'm looking for is to find out if there's been some legal, to my knowledge, nothing has changed since 2012 to 2020 that would require more people to have to go for autopsies. Somebody.
Oh, yeah. No,
Well, our
Yes.
county population's increasing.
God,
We didn't really hit the pandemic, opioid pandemic, till I was leaving. Law enforcement 14 is when it first started hitting too.
Well, so it was 19 in the first year, 35, 28, 32, 41, 49, 65, then 59.
You're talking about how many autopsies?
Correct.
Well, I mean, who all gets the supervisor page?
Nobody anymore. They cut us all off.
No, not the
Satterfield.
dispatch app. Saturday, code 73, 62-year-old male. More than likely, maybe.
It'll say forensics on there if he went.
No, this is just supervisor page only.
Did you have a question about who has the authority to order?
Well, I know who it is. The medical examiner is the first one. Then Buddy, as Buddy's saying, if it's a criminal potential act, I think the DA or even the sheriff can ask for it.
They send them.
But anymore, I don't know. I don't know why the medical examiner, I've seen a number of, golly, I don't want to be graphic, but somebody that dies and there is no question why they died, and they send them to forensics. I don't know if something's changed, if there's new
Why
laws.
don't I email Dr. Patel and ask for some criteria?
What's the criteria for requiring? And
Buddy, I'll leave that with you.
the question
okay?
we had once before was, what about in the cities? Why don't the cities have to pay theirs? Well, because it's billed through the county medical examiner. There is no city medical examiners. So there is no billing the cities for the ones that happen in the cities. We only have one county medical examiner, and by law, the bill is sent to whoever the medical examiner belongs to. That's the county.
I'd like to hear from the attorney, Bob Bowman, what the law says that we are legally, who has the authority to order and what, and pay and so forth. That'd clear some things up for
Yeah.
me, and then I think it'd be good to hear from Dr. Patel, but
Yeah.
it'd be good to find out exactly what extent is the county
And that's
responsible.
that position carries a lot, and it's almost impossible to change or even get a new one if you ever decide to retire. It's things like, the individual up here 6, 7, 8 years ago playing Russian roulette, know what got him. Still had to go to forensics center.
That's funny.
Because they're checking for toxic
drugs
in
You
the
know, once upon a time,
body.
the coroner didn't have to be a doctor. He was just elected like everybody.
County coroner is, the medical examiner is not.
The tragedy there at the Parkway on Saturday night.
It was last Monday night. He went there.
Mr. Mayor, I think if you look at
It
national
take-
statistics since COVID has started, suicide rates in this country have increased 35%.
Commission meetings.
There's actually some of those being listed as COVID related.
Okay,
Moving right along.
Buddy, I'll leave that with you to talk to Patel and ask what Bob has. Dan, tell us about the budget
Well,
amendment
that's
you
what
have
I'm-
in front of you.
Well, I had the cover sheet. I can't
Yeah, I
find the
got
cover
it.
sheet.
I'm kind of chair of that committee, so it makes sense.
Well, you guys have things, but I don't know where mine
Budget
is.
committee, we went over, what was, there was a grant.
And two adjustments for
No
the
matching
school.
funds. There was a line adjustment, no, it was not a line adjustment, actually it would be a decrease in school fund 141 for BAP money the state did not pass along.
$200 and some $1,000.
Yep.
Right?
Well, there'd probably be more on the way.
And then,
There'll probably be another one of those.
Did Lenore City lose money?
Central Cafeterias Fund, they had
Yeah, everybody.
I guess it was a grant.
They got a grant
That
now.
actually last year.
We got two grants, or
That's
one for June, one for July. The first
They were all
one was
paid
the
in
one
June, is that correct?
Adam helped me with, and the second one was, some local groups, here that paid for that.
Are they all paid out in June though?
You know, there'll probably be another one for July. I don't know
Okay,
if they, I don't know if they
it's
paid it
from
out,
grants.
yes, it comes out of there, there's no cost to the county.
Hey,
It was to
They'll be
pay all
on-
the cafeteria staff who worked since,
Yeah.
over the summer to provide meals.
Provide me.
Almost 200,000.
Wow.
they'll both be on, they'll be on the agenda on August 3rd. Buddy, you have one item left you want to discuss.
I do, and I apologize for adding this on earlier, I wish I'd been out of here by 10. Talked with the Loudon city mayor, and included the city manager. Hopefully they've included the city council on this. They've requested a 90-day, or actually a first quarter grace on the planning position that they would pay. This is what I talked to them, what I thought commission might go for. That they would pay last year's rate for 1 quarter only. And if they don't have a planner in place, or they wish to continue to use our planner, before that, it would actually be retroactive to what it is at the 85. And so I told them I would ask the commission to entertain that, to be a good neighbor and to give them a little bit of.
It stays where it's at until
Until
quarter's
September
out,
30th.
and then if
They
they
want
don't have.
25,000, they won't go back to 25,000.
No, just,
No,
they,
just
for the 1 quarter, it would be an amendment to the agreement. For this first quarter, they would pay their quarter of 25,000. If they still need our service beyond that, it would be retro back to the first, July the 1st.
85.
And moving forward,
Have they signed any
85.
agreement now?
Well, if they've had a
They've
meeting
signed
yet.
nothing. Kelly, have they signed an agreement?
No.
I took them, the
I've had it right up to here with
document,
this
I
bunch.
took him the document so that it could be addressed at their workshop. And Mr. Ross, was not very happy with me and was quite ugly with me. But I gave him the document, he looked over the document. I did say I was trying to get it there to you so that you could address it at your workshop. Evidently, it was not addressed at their workshop.
They didn't put it on the agenda.
It was not on the agenda and it was not discussed at their workshop.
And they must be
Correct.
fine with 85 grand.
85,000, let's keep going.
Here it is.
That's
We
what they
passed
owe.
it the 1st of June, and Tracy, or I don't know whose idea it was, to pass it the 1st of June to give them time to know it was coming. We moved it ahead just to give them time.
Oh, and it
Now-
was stated that they got emails, and we had this discussion too. We had emails about that, and it was stated in a public meeting by Mr. Ross, an email is not a legal documentation. So,
He was coming tonight to throw you under the bus because you'd had it since June 1st, they had not brought them any kind of communication to tell them when it was. If they don't have a signed agreement, Bill, if they don't have a signed agreement, if they haven't signed that, we offer them no service, period, starting July 1st, they
Who
get
said it was
nothing.
coming, throw me under the bus?
That they would come to blame it all on you because they didn't have it. I can tell you exactly what's happening. Tracy, or Kelly got thrown under the bus.
I can pull emails.
Well, I've got
Brought
your,
up at their meeting.
you sent them an email in
they
May
did
that said it
not,
was coming.
that's what I said, Buddy, they
Hey.
did not address it at their workshop at all.
Jeff Harris sat right there the night we voted on it. He come down here to defend the EDA. It was on the agenda and he got up and walked out the door knowing the 50 grand was on there. And your email told him it might go to 85 grand and he rolled himself right on out the door right there. They didn't care that
And
night.
Commissioner Satterfield was the one who made the statement.
Yep.
Well, they didn't care any more than that.
I got no problem. If they don't have a signed agreement this minute, Jim Jenkins should not be providing them any services whatsoever. Have you ever read the list of what we have to do for them? I mean, We do more for them than we do for the county. Historical, we have to do all their paperwork, and it plays back into this conversation we've been having about us hiring another planner. If we have to hire a planner to do ours and City of Loudon, then we gotta hire a certain type of planner. If Loudon's gone and out of our hair, then we can have a planner of a different level. So the whole concept here was to hopefully Loudon would understand it's time for them to get out of the basement and go do their own thing. So I've got no sympathy at all
You'll
for
put this on the agenda for August?
You wanna put it on there?
Well, no, nothing to put on there.
We don't need to be doing the work for them.
We're done. July 1st, it stopped without a signed document.
I don't think there's anything to put on there.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
that
agree.
isn't set.
I have a question.
I got
Are we
one,
going
too.
to convene the ethics committee?
Oh, I am addressing that
We gotta get
issue.
Kelly's part.
That's
You're
Kelly's
absolutely
last
right.
part of the meeting.
I have one question for Buddy.
Can I?
Well,
Well,
Kelly,
do you-
go ahead.
Not
do you-
yours.
do you-
Kelly, you're up.
you wanna
Does
do
it have to do with it, or what is it?
Just about.
I'm just trying to see where we are with Mark Matlock on Thursday and his roof being off.
Deadline to go to court Thursday morning.
Conversation, actually last week, his attorney and Bob were supposed to be talking, so the 30th, the deadline's coming up Thursday.
Okay.
And I hope we're in court on Friday.
We'll do it Thursday.
Yeah.
Kelly,
Stay overnight.
Well, I had every intention of addressing this issue.
hold on.
And then I was kindly informed by the attorney that I couldn't address the issue, and I thought, well, I could go into the executive session, but evidently we can't do that either. So I'm gonna hit some highlights, and so here are the highlights. We have had an issue occur in the county with an employee. This issue doesn't fall under the jurisdiction of the mayor, according to some of the documentation and some of the TCA code. And because the mayor doesn't govern this employee, I would like to have the mayor at least call an ethics committee meeting this week, possibly as in Wednesday or Thursday.
Have to have a 5-day
5-day
notice.
notice.
Can't do it.
Probably next
Friday
week.
or Thursday.
Okay,
Oh, that's right. You can't have Scotty Newman on.
I know, he would not be a part of the committee yet.
All right.
okay, so I would like to have a 5-day notice drawn up for next week so that we can get that meeting rolling, because this issue needs to be addressed as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
It is
Amen.
out in the public, and we need to take some action on this. I'm very disappointed that we couldn't discuss it, but I don't want our Loudon County folks to think that we are not looking at this issue and that we are not going to try to address it.
And standing committee members are yourself, Commissioner Tinker, Commissioner Satterfield, and Road Commissioner, or Highway Superintendent Eddie Simpson. And I'll get
Is
that,
there
I'll get
any
that
reason next week that you gentlemen can?
You could have an ad in the paper by Wednesday in the digest. I bet Jeremy can't get one in by Wednesday.
You just have to set it and then I'll let you know. My,
During the day, is it bad or good?
no way.
I don't think it'll take long, will it?
That's gonna be a 5-minute one.
It ought not.
Right then would be best, you know.
Come by and holler at me tomorrow.
Okay, I'll have to.
Everybody else is retired, so.
Okay.
I'm retired.
Could I ask a question, I think it's concerning this.
If I can answer.
Does this,
Harold, be careful.
Be real careful, because they told me I cannot
What you
say a
can't
whole
say
lot.
anything.
Don't say any names or anything.
That's what the attorney said.
well, this is a general question.
Go right ahead.
This county commission does not hire nor fire.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly, but we can address
We fund them.
conduct according to ethics.
We can,
And we
what we
fund them.
do.
The strongest disciplinary
Give 'em
action
a-
the
give 'em a-
commission can actually hand down would be a resolution of a recommendation. You know, whoever this particular individual supervisor is, this commission can pass a resolution directly to that supervisor stating, you know, this is our displeasure, this is detriment to Loudon County, yada, 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 and
So we could do a resolution concerning your subject
Yes.
to the judge?
Yes,
Do a
to
resolution.
whoever the supervisor may be, Jeremy. Be
Yes,
nice.
to whoever the supervisor may be, yes.
We can defund the
Yes.
position.
And
Say, I say
any kind of,
Parks gets out here and makes a fool of himself on
and
something.
any,
I don't take action. This commission can make a resolution to me stating, this is your guy. He ought to, blah, blah, blah. We request action being made.
And that supervisor can take that resolution and fling it right in the trash can if he wants to.
Yeah, it'll be up to
but
you.
that,
Then we could defund, or it
well,
could be up to her.
actually, there are other issues to address too. There are, you know, contracts that are in place that deal with ethics.
The issue comes down, the individual should have resigned, period.
And so therefore, I am asking for that meeting.
All right.
I have one quick announcement.
Oh, for
Thursday, 1 o'clock, Rome County Courthouse will be the first hearing on the Julia Hurley motions. That will be her attorney's motion to dismiss and not ours, but the district attorney's motion. No, we're not dismissing. She gotta go. She moved out of her district. I think several of us are planning to go. I wasn't sure if we ought to get the bus up to the juvenile center.
All right.
Take the bus. I didn't know.
Who's got popcorn, Gilbert?
I won't be able to attend. I'm gonna meet.
Well,
Can you-
not till what, way later in the day.
Can you go into the Rome County Courthouse?
Yes, but you will all but need to be naked.
Take your gun. I'd be
You
curious to
will
see
not
what
be
happens.
taking a gun in the Rome County Courthouse. No cell phones, nothing. You going in just about bare skin, no kidding. Now, the judge says he will not enforce Ron Woody's mask mandate in his courtroom. I don't know what it'll be, but from going from the sidewalk to the courtroom, you're probably gonna have to have one, so come with a mask of some
They don't have
kind
a
with you.
mandate, do they?
Huh?
Rome County put a mandate?
Inside the courthouse. But the judge says fully on Ron Woody, you come to my courtroom, you don't have to wear one. I don't know what it'll be, but anyhow, just if you're going, get there early, take all your stuff off in your vehicle and come on in for fun.
What about members of the media?
I'm sure they can go. You won't take anything in with you, I
Can't
don't
take
think.
the cameras in.
Jeremy?
I don't think you can take a camera. or
Jeremy
photo.
says media can.
Yeah.
You take the recorder, Jeremy? No.
You have to ask permission to the judge.
All right.
Just a notepad.
Any further items for the commission?
See, Matt.
Okay. We'll
Where you
consider
going?
this
Man, it's just
adjourned.
9 o'clock, man, come on.
This is my latest one ever.
Hey, man,
Workshop. Really? What?
I got your instructions. Hold on.
This turned out to be longer than I
Oh, I knew it was gonna
You done lost
Bob
it,
and
man.
I are talking
No, I
about,
didn't.
I mean, I had everything.
He's had a whole month to barter, you know? So, it's just like property taxes, don't pay them till you have it.
I've been 2 or 3 times.
I've got about 10.
There we go. Yes, Willie, please. I can hear him opening his cracker. She's watching us.
Yeah, we found
Please
that
have two
position.
doors locked.
Oh, but wait,
Your main camera turned off. Kelly should know where that is. Leave the recorder in your drawer.
Kelly, remember to turn the camera off.
hey,
Okay.
point it straight at it and push off.
Which puts a.
Henry, point it straight up there at the blue and push off.
This?
Yeah?
That's been made.
No, the remote control, I'm sorry.
This?
Yeah.
Power.